they had.
Oh,
Yeah,
with one of the
they had
cans.
sugar to it.
Oh,
you have to get the natural one.
The natural
Yeah.
one. That's what it is. Pastor's back. Hey there, Pastor. How you doing, sir? I see you're muted still. There you go.
And now unmuted. And I guess when we talk, we'll just make sure we turn down our volumes, you and I, so we don't have any feedback, but I'm okay right now. But this is exciting to be back at Taste of Eden. But this is where we got our start. On WBPG, on 1510 AM. It all started here.
You need to,
I'm excited
okay.
about what we're doing. Did Renee say something?
Yes, I told him to mute because it didn't sound clear.
Right, okay, so we'll just do the mute thing. But for those of you who are listening to us on the radio, Pastor Hobbs and I are drinking. And this drink is, what is it? I know it looks.
It's a breakfast drink.
Oh, okay, so Don Earl is watching us, and he just basically said, good morning, stop moving around. This is Don Earl and Marcia. The me, I guess, they must say that. Yeah, they're watching us, and there'll be other people watching us. I'm gonna take a drink. I want to control my diabetes. I want to control all the stuff that's happening with me. Let's see what happens when I take this drink. You know what's good? Okay, so I'm gonna drink this drink. For those of you who are listening to us on the radio, you can't see it. But for those of you who are watching us, here it goes. But before I drink it, I want to pay honor to John, who's no longer with us. I want to spill a little bit for Mary, who's not with us. All my homies that are not here, I want to spill a little bit. In hopes that they're gonna. Again, right? When they're Christians. I want to take one more spill for all those who are Christians who aren't going to heaven. They're not going to heaven. Jesus' name. Here we go. Okay. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. That's the lunch. I had a drink. Okay. Here I go. Here I go. Here I go. Wait a minute. It's got ginger in it. I got the sugar without ginger. What did ginger do for you? Oh, okay. Okay. These are for all my brothers and sisters who want to control the COVID and the flu. Drink up, Bruce. I'm afraid to ask you what's in here. We don't have like animals at all. There's no meat in here at all, right? Okay. Because sometimes people do the roadside kills and they bring them in and they squeeze all the juice out of the
Oh, goodness.
Yes, Pastor Thomas. Thank you. There you go. There you go. Renee, can you hear Pastor Hobbs? Because he's muted.
No, I can't hear Pastor Hobbs. I can hear Hope slightly because she's right there.
I'll mute myself. So Pastor Hobbs, we'll just, you know what?
Can't hear anything.
Okay, can you hear me now, man? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Cool. So, what was I saying?
Yeah, asked about the drink.
Oh yeah. So it's not just energy. One is energy, and energy that you said will last me all day.
All day. It
So
also clean out your colon, your kidney, your liver, and your spleen.
And that's because of the super green.
It's because of all the super green, everything that's in it. Oh, I also forgot. They also have celery in it. Yeah, they also have celery.
This is fresh
It's fresh, yeah,
vegetables.
vegetable.
You
Every
fresh
morning
squeeze it.
with the foods, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And so you sell it in a container?
I can make it for you.
Oh, you can make it.
Mhm.
So, but you can also you have it in your cabinet. That's why you had it when you just gave us. Was that in a plastic bottle that was
Yeah,
prepared?
that's a plastic bottle called Pastor Jarvis. I make it for him every morning. So, you know,
Yeah.
it was losing his energy and he was diabetic. He was diabetic. He's not anymore because of the stuff that I put him on.
Mhm.
But I'm really into healthy way of eating and drinking. So all this water stuff that you see on the shelf, they're no good for you. Yeah. So now his diabetes is under control, just like Cedric was on incident for 12 years and he's no longer on incident.
Wow. See, so food and the food you're trying to do, the food you're serving is nutrition.
It's nutrition.
It's
yeah.
not empty calories.
No,
It's
and
not just taste good, but it does taste good.
it tastes good,
But it don't
yeah,
just taste
but
good,
you
it's
have
also
to
good
put-
for
yeah,
you.
Yes.
That's
yeah,
the difference.
Yeah.
People live to eat. American culture, they live to eat. That's why we're obese, we got diabetes,
Mhm.
all this hypertension, because people love food and the way it tastes, but they don't think about its consequence as opposed to eating to live.
Right.
Take
You know
me
what
out
they,
simple.
like you said, the application, that also has to do with the salt that you use. You
Mhm.
understand? All these man-made salts are no good for you. The best salt to use is Himalaya salt.
Okay, that's
You
the
know,
pink one, right?
That's the pink one, yeah, that's the best salt. But when you're taking all these different salt, flavor salt and stuff, iodine salt, all of that is no good for you. Those are the things that's really messing with your health.
That's
And
it.
if
I
you-
have blood
you can-
pressure.
Yeah,
It's
You
salt.
know,
yeah.
my understanding, I got my headset in.
Okay.
Okay, is that ginger is great for the inflammation and heart health.
Yes.
Did you know that? So we want to get a pledge right now from Pastor Hodge. Pastor Hodge, raise your right hand.
Oh my goodness. When am I raising my right hand too?
Okay.
First, please.
I,
I,
Pastor
Oh,
Franklin
Lord.
Hodge.
Jesus, give me strength. Yes.
You didn't say
Pastor Franklin Hobbs,
Okay.
yes.
Will refrain
Refrain
from drinking
from drinking
energy drink
energy drinks
for the rest of the day.
for the rest of the day. I could do
There you
that.
Anything you need to swear me to?
Probably
Probably no. I'm
not.
perfect.
Yeah,
I'm perfect in all
yeah.
my ways.
In all your ways.
Well, normally when we're broadcasting, we ask people to call us, but they can't call us because we're on Zoom. So if people want to come on Zoom and be a part of what we're doing, we can send them the link and then they can come on and people can see them and hear them. But hey, while I'm talking, is the green going up on Wirecast? So the sound is good.
Can I ask you a question, Pastor? So, and evangelist. So it is now 6:20. We've been here since 6 a.m. Do you serve breakfast at 6 a.m. every day?
No,
What time you serve breakfast?
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
This is a special day. So people can come right now and get breakfast now?
Yes,
But they have to
can.
wait to 8.
No, they can come now and get breakfast.
So listen, that's a special day. If you're in your car, wherever you are, you can get breakfast right now at Taste of Eden Restaurant. And not just breakfast, but good breakfast and good fellowship. Come hang out with us.
Well, yes. But the person who's not gonna have breakfast is Renee Wide. She made a sacrifice to stay at the studio. And I told her that the next time we do this, the next 10th time that we do this, we'll let her come to the Taste of Eden, and I'll stay at the studio and I'll do the engineering, because we don't want her to lose out all the time.
Pastor, last time she said Evangelist came personally and brought her breakfast. Ackee, she said she had Jamaican ackee and other stuff she didn't remember, but I Hope hooked up personally last time, so she didn't
What
say.
is ackee? Because when I was in Jamaica, when I was growing up, we didn't drink, we didn't eat that.
You are from Jamaica and you didn't eat ackee. Isn't that your
No,
national
It's
your
a
national dish?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Well,
I was a national rebellion. I rebelled against all of that.
So, hopefully, we can tell them that ackee is.
It's Jamaican national dish. It's a fruit, to tell you the truth. It's a fruit, but you have to boil it the right way because you cannot, and if it's not picked from the tree the right way, it can also
Right.
get poisoned by it.
I
Yeah.
heard that.
Yeah, so it has to make sure that it's open up, and then it's ripe, and then you have to pick out the seed and then take the ackee. Then you have to just boil the ackee just for like about 5 minutes,
Mhm.
So-
and then you cook it.
So what about flying?
Fish. Is it in Jamaica or Barbados, the flying fish?
Barbados.
Oh, okay, we won't talk about that. We're only talking about Jamaican. And Renee, why are you looking at me like that? And one last thing about my culture. When we talk about the rice and the peas, do we call it peas and rice or rice and peas?
It's rice and beans.
Rice and beans.
The peas is the pigeon, which is the gunga peas. The red one is beans. It's rice and
So
beans. But
Jamaica.
Jamaican has a way of saying it backward. They say rice and peas instead of rice and beans.
Oh, they say rice and
Yeah, they
beans.
say rice
But
and
it's
peas.
rice and
It's
beans.
rice and beans.
See,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Rice.
Okay, so rice is always first.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll know that because again, it's been a long time since I was in my homeland.
And you forget about, I
74.
don't remember climbing, I used to climb the trees and get the bananas out the tree. And what is that?
I want to see that. I don't believe that.
Number one, you can have a banana tree.
Well, hopefully, after we assess this, we'll figure out some of the things that we need to do. For example, I think when we do these remotes, it's one thing to do it on Zoom, but we're talking into our computers and it doesn't give you the best sound. We probably would need to have a USB microphone that we plug into our computer and then speak directly to the microphone. We'll get a better sound.
Okay.
Now, I actually have a reporter for a major radio station listening to us this morning, and he was just making some comments about the quality of the sound. And quite frankly, he's making no comments about the lack of quality of your sound. He hasn't said anything about my sound.
So I'm assuming
That my sound is perfect,
Of course.
but there's something wrong with yours.
Of course.
For those of you who are listening to us, like Elsie, and I got something else from Darnell Marcia. They said, first of all, they said, bring her breakfast. So they're speaking up for Renee. And then they said, pronounce it right. Rice and
Beans.
beans. Rice and beans. Even Renee got it right. Yeah,
let's go to the other comments. So the other person says, I'm listening on the
That's how mic sounds fine, but you sound like you were too far off my very weak, blurry sound. Oh, so you was talking about. All right now. What I think that is that I have my headset in. And I
Oh.
have my headset in, but I don't want to interfere with Pastor Hobbs. So I have to ask this reporter if my sound sounds any better, but if not, I'll take my headset out and I'll just talk right into the computer. So maybe this individual will talk with us. Pastor Hobbs, there's been a lot going on in the city.
Yeah.
While I was away, I was checking the news, but I didn't see a lot about the shootings and the homicide. But people have told me that even while I was away, it continued.
Yeah.
Can you give me an update?
Oh my goodness, Pastor, it's very, very sad. I mean, what's going on in our community, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, in terms of just the violence. You know, it's out of control. If I'm not mistaken, and again, it's hard to even keep up because it's happening so frequently. Every day seems to be a shooting. So the last one that I'm cognizant of was in Hyde Park. And there was one that was also, there was violence that happened to MBTA, I think, at Forest Hill Station. They beat up our some folks' kids or whatever, beat up an employee or whatever. And quite candidly, the most recent news that I heard even this last night was they found a baby in a freezer in South Boston. Did you hear that?
I actually heard that earlier during the day. I'm shocked and a little dismayed, but I haven't read anything else about it. And that goes back to the need for us to have a police officer who's a liaison to the faith community that would keep us up on all of these things. Because if we call the police station, they're not giving us all the details. But years ago, we would have details and help us to figure out what it is that we should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I hear of these shootings that are happening literally in my neighborhood, I mean, I live obviously in Dorchester and Fields Corner, and I'm seeing the sites of these shootings, and my heart and prayers go out to Commissioner Hayden. I'm sorry, to District Attorney Hayden, as well as Commissioner Cox and our mayor and our leadership. I mean, because it's really out of control, and I'm seeing, and going to these various different meetings with activists, with our elected officials. We met yesterday with the school committee, with Superintendent Skipper, as well as Brother Will, who's the faith-based liaison. He called for us to come, and many of us were at that meeting on yesterday talking about the violence in our schools and how do we partner with the faith community to be able to address that. So it was a good, productive meeting, and it's the beginning of a series of meetings. They're looking at meeting monthly, specifically around this. Many of the people from the faith community that I saw the night before at a different meeting that was at the Vine Street Community Health Center. Will, I saw him at that meeting. He made me aware of that meeting as well, as the Bob Turner, who is the Director of Operations, whom we've been working with since the inception of the Office of Returning Citizens, before they have what they have now, their $2.6 million budget that we helped to advocate for via a hearing that was at City Hall. So now they have the budget, but we've been working with the community before that budget happened, but we now have a new director of the organization, David Mayo, a good brother formerly at Suffolk County Hospital. He's a reverend. However, the challenge becomes, again, we were at that meeting, minutes were not taken. They were asked halfway through the meeting, can somebody take minutes? These are the kind of things, and there was no prayer. One of the people said in the meeting, we didn't pray, we're faith community. Like, how do we come together ever to be able to do anything as believers and not call upon our faith to inform and influence these gatherings?
I was mentioning to you before, Pastor Hobbs, that historically, the elected officials would always reach out to the quote unquote faith community, whether it's the Muslims, the Roman Catholics, the Protestants, no matter who they needed to reach out to, they wanted the faith community because they knew that we had a congregation of people that we met with either every day or once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week, and they wanted to speak to that crowd. And they needed pastors who were on the street, pastors who were chaplains going into the facilities to work with these men and women. And but today, I'm glad that the members of the faith community. But again, if all the faith community does is have meetings every single day, because it's not just the elected officials who are having these meetings with the faith community, it's the faith community that's having meetings with the community.
And so my big question is, what's the result of all of these meetings?
Yeah.
What's going to come out of it? For example, in 1983, George Washington and I, I hadn't even been born yet, but in 1983, George Washington and I had a march against crime in the city of Boston. And we marched from the former Dudley Station area, Dudley Station, all the way to Grove Hall. When we started to gather, we had 35 people who had gathered with us. And a lot of those people, or half of those people, came from the suburbs. They were white brothers and sisters who came from the churches in the suburbs, plus the people that came from our church. As we began to walk, my sister had told me weeks prior to the march that there were threats coming out against me, saying that if I marched, I would never make it to Grove Hall. And when people heard that, the crowds got bigger. More people came out to stand with me and those who were walking. By the time we made it to Grove Hall, we had 500 people.
Wow.
That's powerful. And that was the day that Reverend Charlie Stitt said we needed to do something about the community being silent about giving up the information and guiding the crowd. And on that day, Georgette Watson and I thought about putting an answering machine, a telephone answering machine, in an undisclosed location. And we asked people to make a call to the answering machine, and then we retrieve that information. So we started off with 6 calls, then and ended up being 10 calls. When we finished the program, we were asking about 600 calls a month. We would take all of that data, we would give it to our federal partners, DEA, the state police, office of police, with just all the law enforcement agencies. And they would go and either check out what the tickets were saying. Many times they would come back to us and say, no activity at all. So it was a bogus response. We didn't have that kind of faith at that time. So Georgette and I would go and do our own stakeouts at these places. And what we found with everyone that they said nothing was there, we found that there was activity.
Really?
And that's when the residents would ask us to come and live in their neighborhood for a while. And we would do that. And for the week that we were there in their neighborhoods, we would teach them how to fight crime. So when we left, they were able as a community to do it on their own. So again, I'm saying all that to say, out of a march came a organized program, which was now where people were setting up organized programs in different cities, in states, all over the country. And the meetings that you're having, something's got to come out of it. It cannot just be having meetings every week, because if you go to all these meetings, Pastor Hobbs, how are you going to be able to get your work done?
That's true.
Because you're spending the morning time, a better part of your day in these meetings. Sometimes it's downtown. And so you have to spend your own money to go downtown, you gotta have lunch. Now, the people who are calling you to these meetings, the city and state officials, they work 9 to 5, then they go home. Right? And they send their staff to the community meetings. Some of them do. But you will probably
Sure.
all these meetings.
Yes.
And again, you're not paid for any of this. No one's giving you transportation, no one's feeding you. So we have to figure out how to do what we're doing and doing it better. Because the reason why I do not go to these meetings is because it reminds me of what the elected officials did in the 80s and 90s. They just wore us down, and they were able to say to their constituency, we had these meetings, they had a sign-in sheet. These are all the people that came in, and they could write their hands and say, we did our job. But nothing came out of it, other than the names of people and being able to say to the community, we're meeting, and these are the people we're meeting with. We want a tangible response, something that you can measure. We call it outcome measurement. Where we say, these are the set goals, this is the mission, these are the goals, These are the things that we want to achieve.
Yep.
And we achieved
Then
them.
we analyze them at the end of a month, at the end of the year.
We had these meetings, we did this, and this is what has come of it. And what's gonna come of the meetings? Well, if they continue to go the way that they're going, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, I totally hear you, Pastor, and I totally agree with you. And I think it will be just, I can't even think of a strong enough word, a tragedy, abhorrent, but these resources, right now we're at a critical time where there's unprecedented resources in the city and in the state. You know, we're doing well as it relates to money, right? With AFRA money, recovery money from the COVID, infrastructure money, all these pots of monies that we have and everybody's talking about equity, and everybody's campaigned on equity on the heels of George Floyd and Black Lives Matters. That's the buzzword now, is equity, right? Financial disparity of Blacks and whites is equity. And so, but it's just buzzwords, and it's just something that if we don't seize this opportunity to use this once in a generation opportunity to really create a system that will be self-sustaining economically beyond political regimes, because we've had the Menino administration, and I had to raise this fact yesterday, and it's interesting. I was sharing with you the meeting that happens pre the meeting, the actual meeting that very few people speak. A lot of folks dominate. They do a presentation. You know, there's a whole bunch of folks in the room and a few people speaking. And so, but you know, it's important to be there, I guess, in this infancy stages of all these meetings happening, to make some of those connections and to be present. And I always represent you. And what's one of the things that was said, and yesterday Will said that I think is true, is the elders, yourself and Bishop Dickerson and Pastor Boilers and those who've been here through, you know Boston specifically in the nuances politically and socially and economically with regard to Boston, and know how to navigate those things, because they've done it successfully, you know, through the Boston Miracle, right? So to be able to consult as mentors your wisdom to inform, to revisit some of those things and see how do we tweak them today to be effective with things that we didn't maybe have in that time, like technology or some of the advancements. How do we create a strategy utilizing some of those things that worked, that, you know, tweaking them to be what we're effective in working on today?
Well,
I'm gonna keep saying the same things because it's important for me to do that. And it's important that you have people around you
that you can learn to work with. One of the things that
started to happen is that the city and the state and the federal government started pouring money into Boston and making money available not to the community activists necessarily. They were really pouring money into the faith-based communities.
And I remember hearing stories of the clergy having meetings downtown Boston with the mayor and Eagle. And they were actually, it seemed like they were going to chat.
Enabling the sound. The clergy, unfortunately, everybody wanted to be funded, but not everybody could be funded.
And so, whichever pastor could articulate the better program
and say that their program is the better program, would receive the finances.
So you can see that the pastors, faith-based community, they were going to the meetings, only 2 or 3 were being funded, but the 30 or 40 others
were not receiving any resources. It created tension. It created the
trust
between the clergy, and that kind of thing
could break relationships,
or strain relationships, and keep people from working together. I don't know the answer for that.
But it became a problem.
No, I agree with what you're saying, and then some of that was raised on yesterday as well. A father talked about compensation let me back up. So Bishop Dickerson articulated the importance of the faith community. As you said, we're full-time ministry, and in the full-time ministry, you don't have resources. And so that where they have a job from 9 to 5, and we have our vocation that's 24/7, there's an expectation of the faith community, what you already have to do now, what's going on with the politically, that they're calling upon us to do additional things and not wanting to give compensation to us to add on to our plate, which already on our plate, and that's not fair. So I think that's true. We need resources. Unfortunately, we need to get from point A to point B. We got to do self-care. It's not about pimping something, because that's not right, but it's being, particularly those of us who don't have any kind of budget, those of us who don't have a big infrastructure, but we are committed to doing the work, going to the prisons, working with folks in the community. We certainly need resources to be able to do that effectively and efficiently. So to the piece about that, then one of the things Father Jack, a Catholic priest, he talked about compensation and attention, because even to pray at a city council hearing, some people were compensated, some people were not. And certainly we all would pray, but again, the tension of why once one hears, oh, you got a check and I didn't, then there's some feelings about why you did not didn't. And Will Dickerson, who's the faith-based liaison, he brought some clarity with regards to that, and said that the reason why some people got compensated to pray and others didn't is because the person who invited you to do the prayer, being the city councilor, it's their responsibility to put the paperwork in to be able to, hey, here comes Brother Ron Bell. He said, it's their responsibility to put the paperwork in so that you could be compensated. So the ball was dropped from the leadership who invited you, as opposed to them saying, let's pay one and not the other. But so that was good to hear that clarity, that that's the reason why, so that we can hold the person accountable and know that, yes, there is compensation for that, so that everybody there's no tension.
Okay, so what's gonna happen is, today's lecture is gonna mute us when the other person is talking, so that we don't have any feedback. Today, I just tried something else. I have my mic on, but I have muted my sound, so should be no sound coming back. So let me know if that's any better. For those of you who are listening to us, this is our first meeting in a restaurant, a Black establishment. They were saying that check my speaker. Check my speaker. Renee, is that working okay? Can you send me a chat? So we're in a restaurant, and this is our first Zoom broadcast at the Taste of Eden in a long time. Normally when we come here, we have our microphones and we're doing it that way. But today we decided to try Zoom to see if that was going to work. We actually have a guest who just came into the restaurant. He's come a long way in his life, and he's come a long way in traveling to be with us today. For those of you who are watching this, you should be able to see him out of the corner. He's going to have to move his chair over the other way. There he is, I understand. It's none other than Ron Bell. Thank you very much. So Ron Bell is here, and we've been talking about breakfast.
But what you want for breakfast, Ron?
Early to broadcast.
You want eggs?
You got up early to broadcast.
Okay, eggs, grits.
No, you got up early. And this is for Ron.
Yeah, well, you missed. We're drinking breakfast drink, Ron. You don't want none of this? We're drinking breakfast drink, fresh squeezed juice.
Really make your hair grow.
You got.
Oh, yeah, you drink that, it comes back instantly. And look,
So,
again, we,
experimenting with our sound.
and we're talking in,
Zoom, you do not, you're actually talking to your computer, you're not talking to a regular microphone. So the sound isn't really the best sound. So the next time we do this, I said earlier, we're gonna bring in our USB microphone, plug the microphones in and speak directly in them.
and see if that'd be better.
We have a investigative reporter who's listening to us, and he's been making a lot of positive comments.
How we can do this a whole lot better.
Oh, Ron, great to have you with us today. Now,
You know what, can I just say, don't, stop looking down. You gotta look straight, because it looks weird, that's how Zoom is. So you gotta look like right here, look there, when you're talking into. Don't look into, because it said, yeah, you don't want to show your boss spot. But, right
it's funny. Now I got a boss. Well, hey, who is that?
What happened?
He's behind us, so when you're here,
He's really with us, right? He's really on the screen with us, but for those who might be in the restaurant with us, he's actually behind us.
What was that?
We can't see his face.
This is just
Excited.
I went up to my automobile to see if I can listen to it.
Sound was different, it's a different sound, but it's powerful
Because
want to start
going
going around
around the city
and having broadcast and many of the platforms.
businesses. What do you think about
Why do you think it's better?
We get to It's probably on the restaurant side. Because it's really hard, it's hard to find good food. Unless you go down various neighborhoods that don't look like, places like it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's really a good idea to really help out Black businesses, and particularly around the holidays.
Well, I think it's a
good idea? Look at it. I think it's with the hat on. I think
So you look like it, but you look like it.
right. So for those of you who I would say one gun is right.
Ron, you said gun? Ron John.
Because you think about his long john. Okay, well, yeah. But so taste and eat it. So I didn't realize they sold breakfast. I thought it was, lunch. So we've actually, purchased food here, Jamaican food, which is very good. I encourage people to come down, try it out today. That's basketball, so we're trying to do visit, especially after the pandemic.
Right.
It's great getting out. It's great.
Able to meet people and to be with people.
And
That's you. I get out.
that's true. That's true. I get out.
That's true. I'm still
People say, when you come to
Church,
meeting,
go home.
at home, home, studio, church.
Where do you spend the most time?
I spend the most time with my wife at home.
That's the right answer.
Beautiful.
Good answer.
That's okay.
I spend most of my time
with my wife at home. And then whatever time I have left over, I give that time to the church.
and then when I'm sleeping, I fall into the studio.
I try to give a little time there.
So you was up at 4. I mean, you have
No, I got up at
That's two.
come in and
I got up at 2 o'clock. I left my house
At 3.
3:15, and I went over to pick up Renee.
okay.
So I asked
Renee to be ready at 4:30.
I was waiting for quarter to 4, and I was gonna call him,
Yeah. Not that early.
but she actually
Actually came out before the time. But anyway, we went and picked up Pastor Hunt.
not even on time. So this is.
I'm actually on time too. So you know.
So we have more of a schedule.
You are early. You know what? I wanted to fill in because I understand that one of our broadcasters could make it at 7 p.m. to take the letter.
Yes.
So I said, we can just pop in to fill in.
Well,
Let me look at the screen. We appreciate the effort. We really do appreciate the effort.
Hey, Renee, where are you? You're at the studio. Okay.
because she's controlling, isn't it amazing? She's controlling all of the
Technology, yeah, was fantastic.
Pastor Hobbs and I were talking
Talking a few moments ago, we had station ID in about 5 minutes, but that's what I was saying.
a while ago about all the meetings that continue to take place in Boston with respect to the homicides. And, you go to, not me, but you go to 3 meetings in one day.
Yeah.
And I was saying that a lot of it.
Going to the meetings, one from meeting to meeting to meeting, then you might come back to your church.
But now your schedule
Has been pushed
back.
back.
You get all this extra time when the elected officials
People being paid to do this work.
are being paid
And they
finish it. And every block, they're gone, but we're back in our church.
to get some of this work done.
So how do we manage? How do we better manage our
All right, do we go to all the meetings?
It's almost like a flashback from the night. And I was one of the folks who would go from one meeting to the next meeting. Next, you know, you're home at 9. Awesome. And then your tank goes dry, your fuel runs. And I don't know how pastors deliver a word on Sunday morning, fresh word, if they're running around. And again, I'm not gonna judge anyone. And even like, you know, we make these blanket statements. I don't believe all the elected officials. And I'm not one to stick up for, you know, some of our elected officials, but I know some of them work very hard.
Right.
But I do want to say that anything that folks put on online.
Which one? The one about you?
The writings, grievance, one by Yahoo Miller, they say that.
Yeah.
Services in the city council.
Right.
Oh, yes, interesting.
So, I had met the white members.
Of the Boston City Council, some I know very well. I haven't had that conversation with them yet, but I am. And
I'm concerned that the city council president, I'm concerned
that
he made his cast in the improper light. Because he had to provide the leadership. Right? And it was his picture of the
base they ban it, and because the
history of the community with South Boston. They may be putting off
the blame on.
Well, I mean, I also think it goes back, you know, we had mentioned, you know, going one meeting to the next, and even in on the 90s, the whole issue around class, going back around Sunday, segregation, right? And the name is popular in politics, money. Former mayor, former, you know, and guys, you know, it's not, you know.
So what do we do? What do we do? How do we step into
Something like this? Is it our role as step in and try to mediate this thing? Because I saw the city council hearing.
vanity and we it wasn't pretty.
Pastor Hobbs, are you familiar with the redistricting maps?
I
And
am.
what is going on with the city council?
Yes.
Surfaces and there was an article written by Yahoo Miller. It's interesting because it kind of tells the story of Boston. And what do you think about it?
I mean, I haven't read the full story, but I get the gist of it, and I think that it's good. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's good because, as you said, this is something that we're revisiting that has never been fully addressed. I mean, you know, it's interesting. I went to a meeting on yesterday and was speaking to one of the city councilors, and in fact, I'll tell you, it was Tanya Fernandez Anderson, who I think is doing an outstanding job. And we had a great conversation about, you know, this whole thing about equity, and then specifically the equity as it relates to Black folks, not people of color. And it was so encouraging to hear from a person who said that that should be the deference is to Black folks who are African Americans, who forefathers and ancestors built this country. So she gets it, right? But so to hear her talk about the diversity on the city council that people tout, was saying that, so it looks good. You see more people of color, more women than have ever happened on the city council. So this illusion of diversity and inclusion, that we've overcome this issue of race and sexism and all these, you know, oppressive structural systems, that we're past that, we made progress. But she's saying it's an illusion, because the tension that's now happening in these meetings when we try to work together is really raising to the forefront what has been seething under, you know, this superficial kinds of aesthetic that makes us feel like we're making progress, but we really happen to have these deep conversations that are going to really address the issues that we've not really ever resolved here in the city of Boston.
I've just been told by Drew at the station that we have to stop talking because we have to go to station ID. And once we come back from station ID, I'm gonna ask questions about or Royal City Council. It should be has been taken off of the redistricting. Yeah.
Renee, it's all yours.
That's how you want to shoot yourself and take yourself off the screen.
Okay.
We should have to be careful what we say. Let's say that. No, you didn't. Oh, you didn't. We're not close back.
We can come back. We can come back. Okay, we're back here on Boston Praise Radio TV, Boston Black News, and WBPG-LP 102.9 FM radio. With the hungry Ron Bell. And Ron Bell did not come to broadcast. To be honest, I know him. He basically came to eat.
Yes, that's what I have to admit. Yeah, you're right. I'm in agreement.
And but our task is to broadcast and to let people know about this restaurant. It's located at 38 Norfolk Street. Do we know? Yeah, he did, but he came back on, but he's muted, although, some of his sound is coming in. We're at 38 Norfolk Street, and Common Square here in Dorchester, and Pastor Hobbs and I have been here for a number of hours. It's time for me to take a nap. What we might have to do is have Pastor Hobbs and Ron Bell take the next second of the broadcast, and I can go to the back and take a nap. Yeah, take a nap. I need to get something to eat. Right. Renee is talking to me, so I'm gonna mute myself and ask Pastor Hobbs, if he could take this, and I need to call Renee just regarding some sound issues.
Sure. So yeah, again, we're here at Taste of Eden Restaurant. Our dear friend and sister, we affectionately refer to her as Mother Hope Bailey. She is a mother to the community, a person who just genuinely cares, from Jamaica, and here giving Jamaican food. And so we're serving breakfast. The crew here from Boston Praise Radio and TV Network, Boston Black News, WBPG-LP 102.9, our FM signal. We are here. Our brother Ron Bell is here. Pastor Bruce Wall, our founder and CEO, myself, Against Station Manager Deacon Renee Wise is at the studio. But we so want to be able to just say hello and see you, to be in your physical presence. So come on down and sow into this business, get some good breakfast, as well as be able to fellowship with us and encourage other people to come on down. This, I tell you, I love community. We need community like never before. I heard at the meeting on yesterday with the superintendent Skipper. Again, our brother Will Dickerson is the faith-based liaison and advisor to the mayor, and we're going to be doing these meetings ongoing. But it was a great meeting, and I appreciate that at the meeting we were talking about the importance of us having deep connected relationships, that our young people need deep connected relationships. As we have very superficial relationships with technology. It's a tool, but not something that replaces the intimacy that we establish with one-on-one, face-to-face, in each other's presence relationships. And so we see the consequence of that, violence. And so I really do appreciate that the outcome or the content of that meeting, saying that, again, the importance of takeaways was the importance of us having deep connected relationships. So that's what we're hopeful to do on today, is to build those relationships with you as you come on down here to the Taste of Eden Restaurant, and we break bread and we talk with each other and build with each other. Yeah. I gotta figure it. See, oh yeah. So here's my brother. Here he is, live in the flesh, brother Ron Bell. You got,
you know what? I said hide the dog.
Yeah, you gotta hide that, man. We ain't supporting them. They ain't paying no bills here.
Good tea.
It's good.
Yeah, it's very good.
She got good tea here too.
Okay, well, I'll buy a tea here, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna finish that.
Hey,
I
need
know
some
that-
more.
No hot water. So yeah, as Pastor Hobbs said, we're here at Taste of Eden. Great Jamaican food here for breakfast, right? Norfolk Street in Common Square, the historic Common Square. So come on down and join us. This is really exciting to help Black businesses. We use the term equity so often, but what does equity mean? We use the term of inclusiveness and building wealth and all that. One way to deal with some issues is supporting each other. So let's come on down, support Taste of Eden. I can't wait till breakfast is being cooked now. Bright and early, ready to eat.
I don't know, you like grits, right?
I love grits.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm from down south Mission Hill. You know what I mean?
Some people don't know how to make grits.
Oh no, you gotta have.
Places that's all watery.
That's not grits.
That is grits.
That's slop. You gotta have the right person to make grits. I'm not good at making grits.
Me either.
That's what I, I have to admit, Brothers has good grits.
Do they have good grits?
Yeah, they really do.
Really?
Oh no, do they have grits? Oh, beautiful. We're gonna see.
Yeah, but now do you do Jamaican food? Because
Oh, yeah,
because you know she does ackee. That's the national dish for Jamaica. Is ackee and saltfish. That's a breakfast thing they do.
I've had that.
You like?
Yeah, I love it. I love Jamaican food. I love, black folks have good food anyway, and the diaspora is really it's something that we need to enjoy and support.
But Ron, you're not Jamaican, okay? So you can talk about Jamaican food and ackee and rice and beans. You can talk about that stuff, but you
love Jamaica. You love Jamaica.
Yeah, that's what they told me when I went to Jamaica. I actually went to Jamaica,
okay?
and the brothers from Jamaica thought I was a native, and they took care of me. Now, unlike you, who are Jamaican, I'm put out there that. Now we should have the whole Jamaican community support. Boston Black News, Boston Praise Radio, 102.9 WLPG, because we have someone who's part Jamaican. Come on down and enjoy. Now he can't say anything. Can you speak? What language does Jamaican speak?
We speak English, and we have other languages that we speak. But
Say something.
you need to say something.
I knew it was gonna come out. Hey, Brad. No, that's good. That ain't good enough.
No, that's
Hey,
like,
Brad. Hey,
that
Brad.
sounds like Mission Hill to me.
Mission Hill is the same language. All languages are the same.
We have coming in. His name is Singer. He's an investigative reporter at GBH Radio, and he's partnering with us. He comes to the studio, and he will locate someone on our network on occasion, and he's done a great job. He's a great addition to our team, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to be a great addition at GBH Radio. What do you think about that,
I
Rob?
think it's really good because I seen an old picture of Singer. I can't wait. I got to talk to him about it. He had an afro.
Oh my goodness.
Singer had an
Yeah,
afro.
growing up. If that was a picture, I do recall. It was kind of looking like he was your brother. Them little son, fit right in.
How did you see that picture? Were you over his house?
No, he posted it on Facebook.
He posted it?
Or someone, yeah, I think it was him, unless it was a family. We'll ask him when he come on the air.
Well, also, Minister.
He looked like he could be your brother.
Well, he is my brother. Minister Priscilla is also coming in to the
Who's
studio.
my sister?
Yes, she's our sister. And it's my understanding, I just heard somebody
Jamal's
type
coming
in.
in.
Who's coming in? He's nothing but a troublemaker. How's he get in?
I love Brother Jamal.
Okay, he's not in yet.
He's coming.
Shortly.
See his name.
Mike's his mic is not on, and we can't see him. We want to see him in his house.
No, I want to see him in the car.
I want to see him at the restaurant. That's what I want.
Yeah, come on
Come on
down.
down. Drop some knowledge.
Come on down.
I know one of the things that he likes. That's that Jamaicans like.
He unmuted his mic, so let's see
Oh,
what
here it
happens.
goes. Here it goes.
No, good morning, y'all. I'm just trying to set up my audio.
See,
Okay, yeah, there we go. Can y'all
He's
hear
trying to
me
model
good?
how the audio is supposed to be, huh?
Yeah, can y'all hear me good?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah. No, I'm not ready to be seen. You know what I mean? At this juncture.
We know what that means.
Sure.
Yeah, but let me say this. First of all, shout out to Sister Hoper. One of y'all let her know. This is Jamal, Adrian's son on the line. So greetings from me, and all that good stuff. She's a friend of my mom's. And I just want to say about Jamaica, because while I don't know if you know, but I am also Jamaican.
I knew it.
Yeah, so my mother, actually, my mother's grandmother, my great grandmother, came straight from Jamaica, who we call Mama. I went and visited Jamaica. Went and linked up with our other family. I am actually, Rasta is my spirituality. And while we talk about Jamaica, and there's a lot of funny stuff, Yaman, and you go and you see the tourist white people with the wig, the hat with the dreads coming out and all this type of stuff,
Right,
you know. Um, so without getting to the stereotypical, I think that what we really need to look at is Jamaica's history with the revolution. And for those that do not know, obviously, Marcus Garvey was a Jamaican. Marcus Garvey being the father of the Back to Africa movement, the creator of the red, black, and green flag, who had the largest movement or organization of Black people across the world to this day, with over 1 million members, with the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So I want to, and he's a national hero of Jamaica. And along with, from earlier times, everybody right now is talking about Woman King and all this type of stuff. But there was a lady there in Jamaica, and her name was Nanny of the Maroons. And Nanny of the Maroons led rebellions that dealt with the plantation owners. A lot of people, when they think of plantations, they think of them in terms of, down south, Alabama, Georgia, all that type of thing. But no, plantations were first a function of islands that were actually used to plant the sugar cane and stuff, to make the rum, and so on and so forth. So Nanny of the Maroons led a rebellion. She's another national, or several rebellions. She's another national hero, and is on much of the coinage in Jamaica. So I just want to bring it back to know that Jamaica is a strong part of the African diaspora. And out of all the islands, I would really say that Jamaica and Haiti have been most contributed the most to the worldwide global African revolution.
Jamal, when did Marcus Garvey die, and what was the nature of the death?
When he died, I believe he may, that's a good question. I don't know, but I believe he may have been sick. But certainly I know more about the case that was foisted upon him from, the U.S. government. Eventually tried to get him with mail and wire fraud and taxes and all that, like they often do. But he himself, while he was a great leader, he was also, I would say, somewhat naive in certain areas in terms of some of the people who he did business dealings with. And for instance, when he got the famous boats, those people cheated him. They were not the best boats. And, and certain other dealings he did with finances and so on and so forth. He thought he was covered, and he was not.
Yeah. We actually have, during our Black History series, not Black History Month, but we play Black History segments on our station. We have a number of Marcus Garvey audios that we play as a way of educating ourselves, as well as educating the people who are listening to us. I've watched a lot of the YouTube videos on Marcus Garvey, and he was, to see Black people in the streets, men and women marching, thousands of them. His leadership was really, really significant.
And the emphasis that he had on, obviously, control of self and self-improvement, self-empowerment, nation building, the businesses, these people were upstanding citizens. And then what that led to. So for instance, a lot of people may know, Malcolm X's people were Garveyites, right?
Yes.
Not just his father, but then, up here, Ella Collins in them, Elmer Lewis, Garveyite. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of it spawned across the world. For those that may not know, Queen Mother Moore, who was one of the matriarchs of the reparations movement, she was a Garveyite. So his movement, this is where kind of the dusty history books actually come to life, because these people, all them years ago, without the interwebs and social media and television and all this, the man was able to amass a movement of 1 million members that has a long-lasting effect to this day, and that should be studied more. I believe Marcus Garvey is one of our lost champions. We need to study his works, and to that end, every August 17th, we raised the red, black, and green flag here in the city of Boston in his honor. We haven't done it in a couple of years due to the pandemic, but we'll be bringing that back. Oh, and the Christian flag.
Jamal, just to that point, it was my understanding that the city was going to stop the raising of the flags after the mess that happened with the Christian flag being raised a number of months ago. Did you hear that?
Oh yeah,
Did
no,
you
but
hear they got
that's not
Yes.
accurate. No, that's not accurate. What happened is they changed the process. So
They
now there
changed
is
the
a process, by which the city council and so on and so forth has to approve it, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
I have no problem getting it approved because, put it like this. Unfortunately, and I saw you broadcast there that day, that was a little bit of a ruse. That's not really a Christian flag. Those were some very conservative right-wing people who were trying to, play on the legalities and the Constitution and all that to push their agenda, much like the Satanists are trying to do. Now the Satanists want to raise their flag.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, the Satan Temple from Salem. Yeah. S- I'm surprised y'all haven't gone out there for a gangbang yet. You know what I mean?
We need you to lead us.
You gotta show us how to do it.
Hey, Pastor Wall, get that old chain out the closet.
Okay, we want to get started.
Oh no, now I get to use my joke. I told Pastor Wall I figured out why when they was young they was used to rumble with chains and stuff in their gang fight.
Oh yeah, remember them days?
Yeah, and it's because slavery had just ended, so they had surplus.
That's terrible. That's terrible. No, hey, Jamal, don't make the call. Pastor Randy and Pastor Stephen get on this broadcast to give me some backup with you.
Absolutely.
Do you guys know that Jamal called in to the
Three young men.
broadcast?
Yes.
Like he's a senior.
Okay.
He fits right in with us.
Okay.
It's good.
That's
It's
real
good.
good.
No, I mean,
Intergenerational.
yeah. That's what's up. I love it.
No,
And it's-
I think it's good we're having this discussion around, the diaspora. Last week we had Farah Boya, the brother from Somalia, on, and the importance of us as the Black community as a whole, learning about the history of the diaspora. So I think this is really good. When was the last time you've been in Jamaica, Jamal?
Well, that was before the government took my passport. So
Okay.
so that was about when was that? Like 2000. I think it was 2000. And I'm sure now that my aunt, because she was my grandmother's age, and my grandmother died 5 years ago now at 91. So I'm sure that my aunt is dead. I haven't been able to find them. I think they even changed the streets. I looked on Google Maps, and the old street is gone. And a couple of people I know have been to Jamaica. I've sent them on errands, and I can't find my family. So I'm eager to hopefully get my passport back and get over there and find out where they are, or at least be able to find a grave and pay my respects.
Yeah, I hear you.
I got a question for you. I'm curious. I had the opportunity, as you know, Jamal, to go to Jamaica, and I stayed with the Rastafarian family who hosted me, and it was an incredible experience to see just the community, the sacrifice, what they do, how they live, anything that they got, the American resources that we gave them instead of going to the supermarket and so forth. They went to little places and were able to stretch that money. And they did everything from scratch and then sent it to other folks within the community. I just was amazed to see the community. But with that said, I look at Jamaica. You talked about Jamaica. You talked about Haiti. And we see the sacrifices that these two places have made for Black liberation.
Right.
But what I'm challenged with is help me to understand, with all that said, why both those two countries still are experiencing such oppression.
Yeah.
Particularly Haiti. Poverty.
What-
help me to understand that.
Well, that's it right there. So it's like, look, back when I was in high school, let's say I wasn't a bully. I was actually a defender of I was the guy that if they were picking on like a kid that we used to call retarded, now you can't say that word anymore. But if they were picking on one of them kids, I'd be like, hey man, why you messing with my cousin? You know, I
Right.
would always like defend, you know, it could be a white kid. They'd be like, that's your cousin?
That's my
Yeah,
cousin.
you know, whatever. You know, I just never liked that. But
Yeah.
let's say I was a bully in school, and let's say I picked on a little kid named Timmy, okay? And I
Mhm.
beat Timmy up. I embarrassed him. I pushed his head in the toilet bowl. I gave him what we used to call a swirly. You flush the toilet while his head's in there, right?
Wow.
All right. So, you know, it was all bad. I treated him bad. Now, years later in life, he's the big man and the head of the corporation. And I'm a dude looking for a job. How you think that's gonna go?
Yeah.
Or if I actually work there and he has the ability to make sure that I always get the horrible shifts or that I have to clean up the elephant poop or whatever, he gonna make sure that that's what's happening. So what happened with Haiti, unlike your boy there, Pat Robinson said, it's not a curse. It's not a curse. They didn't make a pact with the devil, and now God has cursed them and all that. If anything, God cursed them by meeting the French. So, so what happened is, ever since Haiti threw off the yokes of slavery to France, that was a thumb in the eye of the royal crown of France. And France is never, ever, ever going to let them forget that. Same thing with Jamaica and England. Okay, so the Queen, who just died, R.I.P., but my P does not stand for peace. Um, um, you know,
What's it
they
stand for?
they were never going to forgive their former colonies who threw off the yoke, much like the turmoil in Africa and all that. So with a wink and a nod, they say, yeah, yeah, you're independent. But they are not going to support these nations in their own independence and in their own self-empowerment. So that's why you have the generational poverty, the lack of resources. Even though the islands produce those resources themselves, they still don't even reap the benefits of even the resources that they produce. And that's sad.
Okay, but with that said, and I hear you and thank you for that. But with that said, help me because my understanding, I learned from one of my barbers, the Dominican barber, that Haiti and Dominican were one place. And it was a river basically that separates the two. And so it's the Spanish, the light skin, and the dark skinned Haitians. So to me, that's black on black, right? You know, fighting each other. Even though they fought for their liberation, there's still this infighting and hating from each other. So help me to reconcile that.
So the entire island, which is yes, one island, separated by a river, and they fortified it too. So there's a border crossing, much like we have going into Mexico and all that type of thing. A lot of Haitians, primarily the black people, which on the Haiti side, the island has very limited tourism and so on and so forth. So a lot of them go to the Dominican Republic to either work for Dominicans themselves or to work for the tourist industries that Dominican Republic has, the hotels, the whatever, whatever. And also too, for those that don't know, Dominican Republic also has quite the thriving sex industry as well. So let's not forget that. So there's also a lot of underworld stuff going on as well. But yeah, no, it's the same island, and let's not forget that when it was first discovered by Mr. Christopher Columbus, right, the area was called Hispaniola, right? And so over the years, that same landmass, that one island, has been conquered by both the Spanish and the French. Okay, so at some point it was divvied up, and that's how you have the French side, and then you have the Spanish side. And when I say Spanish, I don't mean Latino, I mean Spanish, who conquered it from Spain, the Spanish conquerors, the colonizers. So that's how you get the Dominican Republic, and that's how you get Haiti. And the beefs there are a magnification of what we have here with light skin, dark skin, and the complexion stuff, which is also alive in Jamaica as well. You know what I mean? And everybody calls it different things, some people call it your high yellow, right? Some people call it your red. You know what I mean? Whatever, whatever. But everybody has a term for these different things that unfortunately, due mostly to slavery, we have absorbed a lot of this colorism stuff as well. But now here, look, some of the greatest people we got. You got Marcus Garvey, right? Black as Midnight.
Yeah.
You got Malcolm X, red as clay,
Yeah.
and you got milk chocolate Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
So what I'm saying
Chocolate.
is, so what I'm saying is they come. It don't matter where it come from, right?
Right. Right.
It does not matter. What we need to focus on more is the message, not the messenger,
Right.
except not from corrupt messengers. I mean that in a way that also the messenger also has to be of proper sound mind and thing to deliver the message, or we can't get the message. Can't get the message from a crackhead.
Well, I'm glad you said that because a few things. First of all, so the internalized stuff that we perpetuate that we've got to acknowledge in terms of fighting each other, light skin, dark skin, good hair, bad hair, educated, house slave, field slave, like that's been
Own
going
it.
on, right?
Right.
So we gotta own. That's our own stuff
Right.
that we've got to own. Now that we fight for this liberation, we got to liberate ourselves from thinking and how we interact, but also the natural resources that are there, right? Because people come from all over the world. I mean, I was amazed at the natural resources in Jamaica, fresh mangoes, fruits. Like, I mean, you see all the stuff in all the land, and you see so much prosperity in the
Like
midst,
Africa.
like Africa,
Right.
in the midst of all this oppression, and the people who just have a sense of resilience and hope, and community in the midst of, in spite of all that they have been.
Right.
But one of the things I'm challenged with regard to Haiti is you talked about the messengers, the credible messengers. So with the light skin, dark skin, it's the credibility, because we also have to own corruption, right? So, like for instance, Haiti again. How does the president, right? So somebody killed the president of Haiti, right? And that was from folks from within the inside to help to facilitate that. So corruption within government, even post your liberation, that's going to keep you stuck. Right.
But also too,
that.
okay, so as we know, a lot of these are propped up by governments, other than their own. So you got the French, secret societies working on this. You got American interests at this. You got European interests at the whole Haitian thing. For anybody who's interested, if you want on YouTube, you should dig up an interview that I did with a billionaire, Michael V. Roberts. And
Michael V. Roberts.
V is in victory.
V. Okay.
Yeah. Michael V. Roberts is also a billionaire who I was trying to link up with Boston, and none of these economic people have yet taken me up off the offer. I don't know how many people from Boston have tried to link up the city with a black billionaire. I don't know. Maybe that just happens every week. I don't know. But in any event, this guy, who I happen to know, he's a big hotelier, and he owns radio stations, and he owns everything as you would when you're a billionaire. He was one of the people that were called in by the governments, the NGOs, and all this type of thing after the first tragedy in Haiti. This is now probably 15, 20 years ago. The first tragedy in Haiti, the major not the volcano, but the landslides and everything. Major devastation. He was called into a secret meeting of people to, quote unquote, redevelop the land.
Okay.
Boy, did they get the wrong one in the room.
Oh, really?
They start going off on the plan, and they're like, wow, thank God for this disaster. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. Thank God for this disaster, because we've been trying to get these people out of these hills and all this beachfront, like where it was like a lot of the little shanties and the shacks and all this type of thing. We've been trying to get rid of these people for years. Nature just did it for us. Now the land is all clear, and now we can finally build our beachfront resorts. Okay, they had in their minds, they wanted to turn it into exactly what's on the Dominican Republic. So you have all those beachfront resorts like Sandals, Haiti, or all-inclusive resort. Get you a little, little drink with an umbrella in it, all that type of stuff where people had previously lived. But because of the devastation, it wiped it out, and they were like, theme park. You know what I mean? So he's in the room. Because he does this all across, the Caribbean, the U.S., whatever. But he's like, oh, excuse me, what about the benefits to the people? And I hear you talking about, where do the people come in? They was like, the people. Like what? And then the next day he was not in the meeting. Okay, so they had a plan to exploit Haiti because in their mind they'd like to turn that into, as I said, Dominican Republic and make it another tourist destination because it would make plenty of money. But who would get the money? Not the people. You'd be lucky to get you a little job carrying some white man from France's bag into the hotel. You see? So this is the thing where we are low on the totem pole, and oftentimes it is because of the government involvement, the like the nonprofits and the philanthropists of the world, and so on and so forth, and the way that the economic structure is set up. You're not gonna come from a shanty town and be the Bill Gates of Haiti. The path from poverty to success in places like that is much harder to get to than the land of milk and honey that we live in.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. I mean, I wonder, like, what is the solution? I mean, when I look at places and Haiti tout, I mean, Haitians, correctly so, tout that they're the first place that fought for their liberation as Black folks to be free, and that's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's admirable. But I'm grieved with, okay, and I think about them and think about in contrast even to us here in America. How do we move past just that? How do we move to get to the place that we're not continue to be exploited, but to actually be empowered?
Not for nothing, Haiti needs a total revolution, in my opinion. And from what I've seen ever since everybody knows, the Papa Doc regime, or now let me not say everybody knows, because a lot of people are not students of history. From the Papa Doc regime to Baby Doc, even I forget the guy now, I forget his name, Aristide, who was basically, beloved by the Clinton administration, and put it like that. There has never been a stable government that was not in one way or the other compromised. There have been nicer dictators than others. It's like the nice pimp that takes you out for dinner, or the gorilla pimp who punches you in the face. I mean, you're still being pimped. So, and even if you see in the last things, the artists, for Haitian people out there, Sweet Mickey ran for president. Wyclef has run for president. So at this point, the political thing is not even a serious realm of politics, much like many of the nations of Africa. And there really needs to be a total revolution in people who are really people-centric, of the people who really care, who cannot be compromised and are not already compromised or supported by, they don't become these puppet governments and dictators. But not for nothing, that level of integrity is hard to find and hard to achieve when you're talking about gazillions of dollars. And in many cases, and they got a pistol to your neck, or your daughter's neck, or your nephew's neck, or your grandmama's neck, or all of your necks. Do this, or you won't be here to see the results.
Yeah,
No, that's real talk, and I hear you, man. So I mean, so I don't know. When I look at these situations and I think about even a global movement, right? Because I when I went to Jamaica and I learned at that time that a Jamaican penny was equivalent to an American dollar, I think, something like that.
You mean an American penny was equivalent to a Jamaican dollar?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So I was blown away at how far our money goes there. American money, and when you convert it, I'm like, wow. It just was amazing to see. In fact, a young man I gave who like $20, and he would, and it was for him something he saved. The American $20 bill, what I'm saying, for him was like a big deal to save. Because it came from America. People see America as this great place of opportunity. So for me, I feel like a person who was born here in America. My ancestors built this country, and so I'm blessed to be able to have resources. But as a person who understands that we all come from the motherland, being Africa, I feel like when I go to places like Jamaica or Africa, or I haven't been to Haiti, but you know, I know people from Haiti and I see what goes on in those and there. So to be able to use the resources that you have in America here to invest into places like building a resort, if you will, by the people, that's owned by the people, as opposed to people working for the resort who live in poverty, you know, whatever, you know, to shift it to be able to have American resources with your relationship with a person in Jamaica, that your money goes a further way to invest that into a person who lives in Jamaica, who could build this resort, that all these people of integrity, you know what I'm saying? So I always think about how do we have a global kind of a movement that resources from here are helping to build a movement, right? That's global and you know, in Jamaica and say these other kind of places. I don't know. Is that even conceivable that you can have this global kind of American invested into places that are other places that, but it's a movement.
Okay, so
Making
let's do this on some solution-based stuff. So I know Pastor Wall in the past has had a sister church. I believe his was in was it Ghana, Kenya? I can't remember, but I know. Yeah, I believe at some point Pastor Wall had a relationship with another church in Africa. I guess when he comes back.
What's that?
You have a relationship with sometimes at some point with a church in Africa?
Not at this time.
Not this
Okay,
time.
but at one point you did.
Reverend Haynes did, I think.
Okay.
Okay. But okay, so for instance, Sister Hoper right there,
I'm trying
Jamaican
to
lady.
get my.
She got people she calls
5 minutes.
oxtails or something. Yeah, I know.
Okay,
you know.
I'm trying to. I just heard something.
People come down.
So Pastor Hobbs, Sister Hoper right there.
What am
Let's
I
do,
doing?
because you know I'm a solution guy and I'm an organizer guy. Here's something we could all do. Remember Dr. Umar Johnson? You know, he's still around, talking about building a school, right?
Yeah.
He been talking about building a school for the past 15 years now, took all sorts of people's money, millions of dollars, and there still ain't no school. And he's still running around talking crazy, right?
Yeah.
But he can hear us.
Let's do this. You met, yeah, I can still hear you. You met the rosters out there, okay?
Yeah.
I know rosters out there.
I'm trying to get this.
Sister Hoper knows people out there,
You can
churches,
send them.
small. Pastor
call
Wall, yeah,
them.
all of your audio
They
is coming through.
They can get on.
But all of the people out there, we have resources in Jamaica, from the small little Christian school to the small little village to the rosters to what have you. And if we were able to raise something like $5,000,
come on now,
them people will actually build
a
school,
right,
or a center or whatever. Like, we could see it be done. So without all this pie in the sky.
And no, let me just say, see, my thing is, I love that, right? Because it's about relationship with people who you know, who gonna live there, build there, and so you have this relationship that's that builds this movement. Because the truth of the matter is, to your point about so you can see on TV the little babies in Africa, they show their stomachs and they show the flies, and they have the advertisement to do all this stuff to show you, oh, send money to feed the children, and you do that, but those resources don't go. Most of that money is in advertising and administration, and crumbs may go to the people, where if you know people who you got relationship with directly and you are giving them resources and you got relationship to see that they're building an institution, a mechanism that's empowering people.
The same way they pimp out them poor handicapped kids with, if you send us $19, we'll send you this adorable teddy bear. And they be pimping these people out, man. And meanwhile, the CEOs is making, 100, 150,000,
Yes, Yeah.
so on and so forth. And
Yes.
let me not say without verification, because the Shriners might actually be better than some of the other organizations.
I think they are. I do think
Right.
they are.
Right. So let me not let me.
So many organizations, it's administration. They crank out the grants. They crank out, and they have the money to be able to.
Because even the Red Cross ain't about nothing. And if folks, even locally here, if folks did the science on the Greater Boston Food Bank, and if you saw them folks' salary, it'll make you lose your appetite. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. 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 So in contrast to that, again, so that happens, and that's real, and it just grieves me that people get sucked into that. And I've done it. You see the commercials, you feel bad, and and you go on, but you're putting your money. That's not the most efficient way to really empower people with these issues or these countries that are oppressed. So as we're talking about poverty, because that's the macro thing, right? Is poverty, right? And so to be able to have these relationships, as we're talking about, that's what I'm interested in. Talk about being solution based. How do we do relationship to really
Let me give you another one.
Okay.
All your peoples in the church or anybody, in the sound of the listening audience, right? Certain people have certain skills, writing grants or letters or whatever. Here's something that I was able to do a while ago.
Yeah.
At the time, I had a girlfriend that I was dealing with, beautiful young lady, and she left. She was studying here in Boston, and she left to go work at like a rescue center in Africa. Still there to this day. You can look it up. It's called Rescue Dada. All right, and it's in Kenya. And she just left, and I was mad because my little sweetheart was leaving, but I was also proud because I was like, okay, I mean, it ain't like she's, you know what I mean? She was going off to go skiing in the Alps. She was going to use her off study time to do something, to build up humanity. So she went off to Rescue Dada.
Nice.
Okay, that developed a relationship with me and her, and I'm calling there. She's calling me from there. We're writing letters. She's like, wow, man, I need this and that. I'm sending her little stuff that I could that was nothing. But then I had an incident at Staples where I had a racial incident at Staples. And I forget what had happened to me, but boy, did they get the wrong one. And so I fired off a letter, sir. Okay, I fired off a letter, boy, and I lit them up. Staples contacted me back, and they wanted to make all these things right. And basically, I did exactly what I do with the food. Do you know, just like the food, every week these food stores throw away food. All of these office supply places, they throw away pallets of stuff. So long story short, I got a couple of pallets of pads, binders, pens, pencils, sharpeners, protractors, all the little school supplies you could think of. Couple of pallets, brother. Remember the other day we were talking about how I was challenging the churches to be more involved and have a reconciliation. This is right after my grandmother Esther had died, my father's mother, who was of Charles Street Church. So me and Groover were developing a relationship. Groover allowed me to put the pallets in the basement of his church, where they were awaiting shipping. Here's where the devil came in, boy. I think that one year we had some sort of crazy snowstorm. It melted and flooded the basement of Charles Street AME, and all of that stuff got soaked and moldy.
Wow.
But the long story short was we had a couple of pallets of school supplies ready to go to Africa.
Yep.
Now we can do that again. Staples now, not under the threat of a racial incident with some crazy activist who's about to take them to the hills, right? But just out the goodness of their hearts, if we deal with some of these local corporations to get not only school supplies, but just like that South Bay Bed Bath and Beyond just went out of business. Even cooking utensils, pots and pans, whatever. I go out to a storage facility in Hyde Park. There's a group that sends stuff to Haiti every week, truckloads of broken bikes and stuff. So we need to link with these type of people, and one man's trash, quote unquote, is another man's treasure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
So if we just think a little smarter and work a little harder, we can connect the dots. So that's what I like to see. Let's organize better. Let's find the people who are willing to write the letters to these corporations to say, hey, can we take off of your hands the surplus stuff that you're going to throw away or incinerate anyway? And now we just have to figure out a way to get it because shipping is expensive. Now we just have to figure out a way to get it to Africa, to Haiti, to Jamaica, to wherever we talking about. That, gentlemen, is the challenge.
So let me ask you this. So with regard to like building, I mean, I think about the hospitality industry and the tourist industry, that these places, you know, that seems to be the thing, like you talk about Haiti, you know, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, you know, those are places that people think about as touristy, you know, spots. That's, they make their money, you know, in the resorts. I mean, I personally prefer to stay because I understand the resorts are not owned by the people, the natives. I learned that. I mean, it's an illusion. You think you're going there and you see the people are serving you are people who are natives, but that's their job. And they're getting crumbs while the people who run and own the resort are not the natives. And so how I would love to be able to see us to use our resources to build an economic engine, right? That then all these resources, that the pots and the pans and all the other kind of things can maybe be utilized within, you know, because, you know, to be able to build places. Now we can even go to, we support by going to and having other people go to this resort and promoting, as opposed to a sandals, you know, that is white folks advertising and pimping black folks, you know, for the tourist, you know, industry. How can we as Americans be able to have a partnership that we're having natives build it, run it, and we support it with this global kind of a relationship?
So, you know, okay, so one of the things that really separates us two is classism. And unless you really experience Caribbean culture, West Indian culture, whatever, you know, like for instance, when I say classism, if you go down to the Copley here,
Yep.
it's still a brother named Tyrone who's maybe checking your car or whatever. These are regular people from around the way.
Yeah.
Okay. When you go to an island as a
Yeah.
tourist,
Yeah.
you're already hitting a level of filter because the resorts don't hire just regular folk. They
No.
not hiring the Pookie of Haiti. Okay, La Pouquet. They not hiring him. Okay, you have to be of a certain thing in order to even be of the service quality to be in the resort.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that you're not going to bring in none of your little neighborhood bullcrappy into the situation. In fact, when I went to Jamaica, I was told on several occasions not to talk to the help. And I saw the people were told not to engage with me. Now, I broke them walls down immediately. Okay? I don't do that. So that's just me. But I do that everywhere. I don't if I'm going to the airport in Chicago, I don't like a black man to carry my bags. If I'm going into the hotel in America, I don't like a black man to carry my bags. And I furthermore don't like it when I go to another place and I see what the quote unquote the hierarchy of class and whatnot is. So for me, it's different. I strive to be, and not for nothing, when I was in Jamaica, I ended up getting cool with the brother who worked there, and he actually brought me to his Rastafarian village. I met his uncle and all his elders. We chilled out, and several years later, when he found his way to America, he came and stayed with me for about a month or so.
Wow, nice.
So these are real connections. But look, it started off what I wasn't supposed to talk to the help.
Right.
No, I'm listening to both of you, and I'm saying I appreciate hearing what Jamal is saying about the type of help. They want help that looks a certain way to complement what they're doing. And you're right, they're not bringing in just anybody who wants the job. I don't know if you can see this, Jamal, but behind me is a young lady who just came into the studio or into the restaurant. It's Minister Priscilla Flint Banks, and also singer with GBH Radio is also with us here at the Taste of Eden restaurant. We
Oh,
have
singer is there as well. Okay, great.
singers right here.
All right.
He's waving. He's waving. I don't know if you
Yeah,
can
I
see
see him
him.
now.
Yeah, we see
Okay.
him. We see
Yeah, I
singer.
see him.
There he is.
The family is here. The family is here. The only family member that's missing is Larry, who's away.
Look at that. There we go.
Good morning, Renee. Good morning, Jamal.
Good morning.
How are
Good
you?
morning. So we
Now
have
let me
about.
ask this. Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask: Is Singer familiar with Jamaican food?
He has his headphones in.
Can you
Oh,
answer
yeah.
that question?
Oh yeah, I've had Jamaican food. I've had I spent a lovely week in Jamaica once upon a time, and as you were saying, Jamal, the first thing I did after like a day or so of enjoying ourselves was get out of the resort
Get
and
out the
into
resort.
and into the community, man.
Yeah,
It was
man.
just like go meet some people, see some places, eat some jerk chicken. It was outstanding.
There you go, Jamal.
Absolutely. And not for
And of
nothing, the
course,
jerk chicken out there, fresh off of like the
hello,
coals and the fire.
hello.
It's
But
perfect.
But you're also right. You know, the people who are running the resort are like, well, don't go into Negril because, you know, it's dangerous down there. And I'm like, heck no, I'm going to Negril and I'm going to meet some people and I'm going to have some food and I'm going to learn something, you know?
Right.
And we had a great time and we're safe and stuff was cheap and delicious.
It sounds like we're going to have to take this broadcast to Jamaica.
Let's go.
Y'all help me get my passport back from the government, y'all.
What happened to your passport?
No, hey, not for nothing, for real, Singer. Can we
Yeah.
do a whole story, GBH, on? I've said this for a long time. People uncovered the disparities in the criminal justice system, right? Criminal courts for Black men and Latino men. Clearly, you know, and when we were screaming at people like, you're crazy, it's all equal, then they find out, oh yeah, no, it's not. Duh. So what about probate court? Because everybody here knows how much I love my daughter. My daughter's about to be 25. I'm about to be with her in a couple of weeks. Do you know I owe $48,000, quote unquote, owe, because I really don't.
Wow.
$48,000 of child support, and these people have my passport and
Yeah.
dangle my
Wow.
driver's license over my head every couple of years while we just gave licenses to illegal immigrants. Jamal Crawford might not even have his. Come on, let's talk about it.
Well, in fact, Jamal, I'm glad you said that. We're actually going to be launching a series of reports starting early next year about returning citizens and people dealing with probation. This topic you've hit on is exactly, I'm trying to figure out whether we can determine the disparities in who has their driver's license suspended for non-criminal offenses like yours. Right. So if you are behind on child support, they can take your driver's license. And of course, that means they can take your job. If you don't have your driver's license, you might not be able to have your job. And so I've asked the DMV for this information, sorry, the RMV for this information, and they say they don't keep track of driver's licenses by race, which I don't believe to be true.
It's a vicious lie.
So, but I would like to talk to you more about this. I hadn't done with the passport, but I think we need to figure out a way that we can basically prove what the thing that you and I know to be true, that Black people are going to be more disparately affected by that punishment than white people.
Let me give you one more nugget. We have to bring Steve Tompkins into this discussion because I literally have a lot of that. I have a lot of that data. But Steve Tompkins, I asked him, sir, how many people every year go into your facilities because of non-payment of child support? How many people are jailed because of non-payment of child support? He told me none. I told him, sir, that's inaccurate, because I was just at court Wednesday and I watched one.
Hmm.
And that guy got jailed because he didn't have, I think it was $232.
Ridiculous. That,
So
that does not make any sense, you know.
right,
How
because
do
that
you,
and the father was like, "Ma'am, I have to pick my kid up at 4 p.m."
Well, right. What good are you doing? You know.
Exactly. There you go. There you go.
Well,
Well,
definitely. This is on our agenda, so I would love to talk to you more about it, Jamal.
I hate to interrupt this conversation, but we have to go to station ID. And when we come back, Priscilla and Singer and others who will pick up on their conversation here at the Taste of Eden restaurant. Renee, the station ID is yours. We're leaving it to you.
With DL Hughley.
Jamal, you might as well just get in your car and come up here.
Breakfast smells great.
I have to check and see if my license is suspended.
Okay. We are back. There we go.
We're back.
I'm unmuted. Yeah, we're back. So what do you think, my brother singer? I mean,
Pastor Hobbs, nice
how
to
are
see you
you,
this
sir?
morning. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm outstanding by the grace of God. We're so happy that you're here with us and a part of the team, and you know what we're doing, and what we're getting ready to be able to do collectively to just empower our city. So much is going on. We were talking a little bit offline. Minister Banks and I yesterday went to a meeting with the faith community and the superintendent. We know the violence that's happening in our school systems. And you know, I've got to tell you, one of the things that for me was
Pastor, I'm sorry. Which superintendent were you meeting with?
Superintendent Skipper.
With the schools. Got it.
Yeah, so she's a superintendent of the Boston Public School System. And so it was a good meeting. You know, Will Dickinson, who is the faith-based liaison and senior advisor to her, you know, invited many of us to come. So it was good to see some people who I'm seeing at repeated meetings from the faith community who are interested in our community, but also to meet some new folks that I had not met, either who want to be a part of the movement as faith leaders or other folks who work for the administration. So it was a good first meeting. However, with that said, for me, fundamentally, one of the things that Minister Banks, I actually asked Minister Banks as well as Representative El Ugardo, I asked him, I wrote a note and said, is it appropriate to be able to ask in this setting about the mayor not acknowledging the will of the people to have a fully elected school committee? Like, if we're talking about having these deep relationships, meaningful relationship, that starts with us listening to each other. And so let's step back and let's revisit the fact that the city has said resoundingly that they want to be like every other city in the Commonwealth and have a fully elected school committee. And so, but Mayor Wu was talking about having this hybrid. Now, she of course wasn't at the meeting, but the superintendent was there, and so I just wanted. So we didn't raise it because the meeting was ended.
They kind of got up.
We didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah, right. Because I sure was like,
I was going to ask you when y'all said, you know, because Representative Elgato said yes, you should ask, and so we were going to ask, but we didn't have the opportunity. But you know, that's a reset. Now here it's the city council ultimately that is going to be able to push her to be able to make us have a fully elected school committee.
So let me ask a couple of questions, though, Pastor. Did you feel like the city at this meeting yesterday was making a commitment of some sort to follow up, or did you feel like you were just being invited into a room to have a conversation, have your cup of coffee, and go home?
Honestly, you know, it's interesting you say that because one of the people raised that question of a Catholic priest who was at a meeting the night before with me said, we're going to these meetings, there's no minutes that anybody's is taken, right? So we're not capturing what's being transpired, who's there. They signed a little sheet to say we had a meeting, but it really feels more like you're wanting us to come, you know, to be able to say, look, we came together and we're going to address this, but not really embrace us really having an agenda that we're going to have outcomes and impact.
And what was the response?
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't articulate that in the meeting. I'm saying that to you now. You know, I didn't say anything in the meeting, and I went to 2 meetings. I didn't say anything. There was a few people who dominated the conversation. Many of us were in the room, and you almost feel like, why am I here? Honestly, I was telling Minister Banks, for me, it was good to be present. And to meet some folks, but the real substance happened with the people who organically you met pre the meeting and after the meeting, and had those conversations. Those were the
right,
real
and
meetings,
that's
not the meeting.
Right, the informal networking, and pardon me if you're hearing some background noise here. I just got to tell you, by the way, and I'm sorry to interrupt for a commercial break here, but we are here at the Taste of Eden restaurant, and folks are now lining up for the food because I just got to tell you, it is looking good with the chicken and the biscuits and I don't know what else is over there. We got some eggs, and we got some greens cooking over there. So for your commercial break, if you hear noise in the background, that is people enjoying the food here at Taste of Eden restaurant. So I apologize for that. But yeah,
good stuff, man. I can't wait to get my grub on.
But you're right, Pastor. I'm interested in the informal connections because as Ron Bell and Pastor Wall frequently remind me, there has been a challenge in this leadership community of making a connection between some of the younger generation leaders and some of the older generation leaders. And so I'm interested in how that informal networking works at those meetings. But I'm also really interested to know whether the city is going to commit to something other than, we had a meeting on Tuesday, So I guess I got to have a phone call next with the city and ask them what they're planning. What's their idea?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's interesting because I know one of the things they intend on these meetings being consistent. So like every month, like they're talking about us meeting with the superintendent every month, this being a monthly meeting for us to commit to coming every month to this meeting. And I don't know if that's the same. They haven't talked about the frequency of our commitment as it relates to the Office of Returning Citizens. But the challenge becomes you can't keep going to like all these meetings, and particularly if you don't feel as though going to the meeting that we're not really building or capturing what's being transpired and saying, okay, in between the meeting, we're going to do this. And we're going to come back.
Action steps.
Yeah. So people feel so people may come initially because they're optimistic and they want to be a part of, but if again, we're not really capturing, don't have minutes, and we're not really building on in between the meetings,
right,
then what kind of impacts are we really going to have?
Yeah, that's right. Never go to a meeting where no one's taking minutes.
Right.
Although I can tell you, this is sort of, some years ago, I was a political reporter in Washington covering Donald Trump, and he said something about never trust people who take so-called notes. Because he was talking about somebody, probably James Comey, coming out of a meeting with a bunch of notes of their meetings. And so I had a T-shirt made that said, "Don't trust anybody who takes so-called notes," because of course I am the guy who takes so-called notes. but yeah, but if no one's taking minutes in the meeting, then they're not serious.
They're not serious. Very, very, very good point.
Yeah, they should have had someone there. They should have had someone there taking the notes. It's like, to me, it just seems like there's so much more they can do. I don't understand. First of all, I'm very upset about the school committee because we voted for a school committee.
Yep.
And I don't think it's right for Michelle, the mayor, to turn around and say, oh, I want hybrid. No, we didn't talk about no hybrid. The people didn't vote for a hybrid. They voted for elected school committee. And that's what we need, because I feel like if you're appointed, when you're appointed to something, you're going to do what the establishment wants you to do, except for on the BET commission. I saw you on the BET commission the other day.
Yeah, I was tuning in, but
Yeah,
I'll tell you, I've had experiences both ways, Priscilla. I've been in cities that had elected school committees that were terrible because all they wanted to do was run for re-election, and none of them knew anything about running schools, right? So there's sort of, I can hear criticism coming both ways. I don't have an opinion on this because A, I don't have kids in the schools, and B, I don't really understand the issues very well. I'm not very smart about them. But I'll just tell you that I have heard similar criticism from places that have elected school systems, that they want to have more professional appointees on those instead of just professional candidates on those boards.
Maybe that's why she wants a hybrid.
Right, but I have heard that they don't want to have an elected school committee because people are looking to go to bigger office. But isn't that how politics work? Don't people, you become a city councilor at large, and then you want to run for mayor, right? So that's politics. But
yeah, that's true.
I feel like we should have there should be some kind of way that we can actually have an appointed school committee. I feel like, elected school committee, I feel like you should have parents, guiding counselors, nurses on the school committee. Because if you don't have no children on the school committee, right, and you're just a figurehead or you're just appointed, how are you gonna feel? I mean, you're not gonna feel like you have any power to do
And you're right,
anything, because you gotta always go back to the mayor.
And I hear you on this topic. I think it's a really good point. Like, can you really run a school committee and decide what to do in the schools if you don't have counselors and professionals in child care and professionals in child mental health, right? These are the issues that the kids and the teachers are dealing with now. Never mind, what the curriculum might be on Tuesday. The most important thing at the moment is, are the kids safe and do they feel cared for, and do they have a place they can go when they're in trouble? So I hear you on that front. That could you think about a school board that really does include professionals with the skill sets you need beyond the skill set of running a really good campaign with Ron Bell as your campaign manager.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I missed that about Ron Bell, campaign manager.
I'm saying, like, if the only skill set you need to be on the school commission is to have Ron Bell as your campaign manager, that's one skill set, right? But
I
that
know
may
Ron
not
Bell
be.
was my campaign manager.
But that may not be the skill set that we need on the school commission. You may need to have someone who's a mental health expert. You may need to have someone who's a child development and growth expert, a psychologist, right? And that's the challenge of whether you're elected or appointed, is you got to figure out how to make sure that you get the right skill set on that board.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's just like we've had so many school superintendents, and it's like, why can't we? It just seems like, was Mary Skinner? Is she from Boston? She's not from Boston.
I don't know. Do you know?
I do not. I'm not the schools guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
look at that.
I don't know if she's from here, but to me, I don't see why you gotta go way across the country to find a school superintendent. I believe that there's folks right here in Boston that could be a good school superintendent. I know they have to do these worldwide searches, but I'm not with all that, because we have people here that can be a school superintendent.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the reality, and I hear that, the truth of the matter is, right now, she is the new superintendent.
So we gotta give her a chance.
You gotta give her a chance.
Yeah. I mean, she
seems nice. She seems sincere. She seems nice. I mean, they were talking. Go ahead.
She is local.
She is local.
Okay.
She was the superintendent of schools in Somerville.
Somerville.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
And then before that, she worked for. She was a superintendent of high schools for BPSR. I'm just reading her bio now off the page here.
Oh.
So she has done time as in the local school districts, not necessarily Boston, but then some of this is in Boston. Actually, she helped launch the Tech Boston Academy as a school leader in 2002. So yeah, she's local, and she knows the community. So there's that.
Can I interject here? Can y'all hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, brother.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. So now, a second ago, we would have been ready to besiege upon Mary Skipper, right? As an outsider or whatever. Singer just did a basic Google search.
Yeah.
Because that's the same thing I did at the same time, but I did mine to check. And my thing, I'm like, hold on, I thought she was from here. Let me check. Maybe I'm crazy. But all of this is what we went through before when this happened. So when we're both reading at the same time, the Somerville thing, so we knew this. So now, if we are at the forefront of education, and we are not even clear on who the main player is, who we could be opposed to, or we want a replacement, what are we doing?
I'm not saying we want a replacement. I'm just saying that a lot of times we have went across the country to bring people here. So
Okay, such as?
the gentleman, who was the gentleman?
Tommy Chang?
Asian. Yeah,
Yeah, Tommy Chang, okay.
Superintendent.
yeah. And we've had a couple of different school superintendents.
Okay.
But, go ahead.
I mean, if we go back, so for me, growing up in this, and this is almost the same question I posed before with the Obama situation. We had LaVar Wilson. Remember? Does everybody remember?
LaVar Wilson.
Oh, how'd that work out?
I remember him.
Okay, Deval Patrick as our governor. How'd that work out? Okay, so all I'm saying is, in my humble opinion, we're focused on the wrong thing. If we don't get down to the credentials and either identifying people who we need to say, this is our guy or our person, and this person has the credentials. Okay, let me give you this last example. I'm gonna shut up again. Right now, I am aware of several great jobs, 80, 90, $100,000 a year up. But these are serious jobs. I don't even have people to really rightfully recommend. So the problem to me is not that there is a shortage in opportunities, but oftentimes there's at least a difficulty in identifying those who could actually not only benefit from that opportunity, but actually perform in its capacity if given the opportunity.
I hear that, Jamal, and one of the things that we're having these really interesting conversations at GBH News, where we're trying to really expand our reach and expand our understanding of the communities and diversify our own newsroom at the same time. And we have this conversation a lot about, well, are the candidates available? Or do we have diverse candidates available for these jobs? And if you look at the resume, you'll frequently say no. But if you're looking at only the resume, you might be basically discriminating against people who have some of the skills you want. They just don't have the background of the previous job because they were discriminated against that job, right? I can't ask whether when I'm hiring somebody, when I'm bringing somebody on, I can't necessarily ask, have you been a reporter at a local news station before? Because if I ask that question, I've already limited myself to mostly white people. So what I can ask is, do you have skills that you can apply in my newsroom, that you've shown you have those skills, you've had those abilities, you've got those attributes I can teach the specific skills to. And then I feel like I'm looking at a broader pool of candidates. Sorry, that's my soapbox for diversity of hiring.
No, that's a beautiful analogy. Can you hire a journalist, let's say, first of all, that doesn't have a mastery of the English language? Secondly, or at least a mastery, at least a command. Secondly, if they're going to do sports journalism, they might want to know about sports. If they're going to do political journalism, they might want to have an interest or some knowledge base in politics or business or weather, whatever it is. So that's my point. In our community, we don't even have that. Because yes, if we got people with a basic interest in the ability to bring them up, that's fine. But what we find oftentimes is the anchor man wants to be the weatherman, the sports guy, the political guy, the business analyst, and he's going to also pick out the numbers on Friday. Come on, it's too much.
Yeah. I hear that. I do hear that.
See, Pastor's getting his grub on here. Folks is enjoying themselves here. Food at Taste of Eden.
I'm telling you,
I thought that was static in the background. That's lip smacking?
No, that's lip smacking, Jamal.
I'm dying here. I'm standing next to this incredible buffet of food, and I'm going to spend my morning having this lovely conversation, which I'm enjoying. But but it smells too good for me to talk to you for very much longer because I'm going to want to get my grub on.
Hey, more folks is coming in. And he works here. So I'm curious, both Jamal and Brother Singer, the announcement of Donald Trump, shifting gears a little bit here. So I mean, what's going on here with the election, and I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll just offer my 2 cents. I left Washington in part because of this. I was the politics editor at USA Today for 2012 and 2016 elections.
Wow.
And I couldn't do it anymore. There's no, as a journalist covering politics in DC, it just became who's got the angriest tweet, get that up online as fast as you can, right? So I came to Boston because it was an opportunity to write about issues like these we're talking about things that matter to people, not about, whether or not the president woke up with indigestion, decided to tweet nonsense. Right? But I will say that, during Trump's, I don't think Trump has the support at this point to become president of the United States again. I really don't.
No.
But what worries me about his presence in this campaign is that, if you saw any of his announcement the other day, he was talking about, immigrants at the border and we're being overrun. And then he said, they're poisoning us. And I remember this up in New York, there used to be this statue that had this lamp and it said, bring us your tired, your hungry, your huddled masses, yearning to be free,
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought America was. And now the former president is up there giving a speech saying that, immigrants are poisoning us. And what worries me is just that it normalizes that conversation. Like if a guy with that much following and a microphone, and he's getting coverage on television for saying that hate this person, hate that person, hate the other person, they're all poisoning us. That is a bad message, and it filters down, and then we see people in the streets of Boston, holding signs saying "Make Boston Irish Again." We see people calling in bomb threats to the Children's Hospital because they might be doing some sort of anti-racist medicine. Efforts to really give fair treatment to people of color, and they're being attacked and being called names. That comes from the megaphone he has. So that's what worries me about his campaign. Never mind the political part. It's too early to talk about whether there's anybody's got support, who's the candidates are, blah, 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 blah. I don't think it is healthy for America to have a guy with that megaphone saying the nonsense he says about basically 2/3 of the country.
Wow, I so appreciate that. And again, I'd be curious to hear Jamal, because as that piece about white supremacy that he just lifted, that is his concern with this, that's bigger. And I heard you say it first, Jamal, that, and I want to say it right. I want you to say it right because I don't know, verbatim, but in essence, that white supremacy this is via intelligence agencies like CIA, the FBI. They're saying the number one threat to, I guess, is it civility? Is white supremacy?
Yeah, now, I mean, they do a threat assessment every year or so. At one point, many years ago, the number one threat they deemed to America was as they called it, the Islamification of Black men, whether that was in the prisons, whether that was going to the Nation of Islam, and whether you were becoming a Sunni or Orthodox Muslim or Nation of Islam, whatever. They saw that as the potential, like an American Negro jihad. That's what they were scared of. Mm-hmm. That threat switched, and then the FBI issued out their new threat assessment that was basically that the new biggest threat to America is white supremacist and patriotic militia type organizations, all of whom have a common thread, and it's all really code word for each other. It's all divisions of the same thing, really. So they understood that. After that, it even advanced. Subsequently, the FBI released a document saying that military and law enforcement had been infiltrated majorly by white supremacist and neo-Nazi organizations, which, for those people who are paying attention, was commonly one of the fears that they had about, like, LA gang members or whatever were like going to join the army just so they could get proper shooting weapon training and then coming back to the hood and being even more effective gangbangers. When in actuality, what was really happening is that a lot of these quote unquote patriotic white guys from the suburbs, we were actually joining the military, the police forces, so on and so forth, in order to not only gain training but exact out their their views in the real world. Yeah, so that's all real, Now, as far as Trump,
and there was, and forgive me, I'm gonna have to do a quick Google search while we're talking here, Jamal, because my recollection is that the Justice Department under Obama created a special office about extremism in law enforcement, and I think that office got eliminated under Trump. But I will have to do some Googling to make sure what I'm telling you is actually true, and it's not just a bad false memory on my part.
No, you check that out, and while you're at it, because see, my letters to Eric Holder at the time never got answered. But at the time, Eric Holder had made a statement that at one point not only criticized white supremacy and so on and so forth, but also admitted the FBI's role in the undermining of Black organizations, which to me, I wanted to get that statement on record and get the transcript of the statement that he made via COINTELPRO and so on and so forth, because that is also going, in my view, to be a major component of reparations. The repression, what has gone. Oh, and for those that don't know, Mutulu Shakur has now been paroled. He will be free soon if he's not free already. I'm going to Atlanta early December for the fundraiser. So issues like that, where we have repression, political prisoners right here in our own country. Donald Trump, I forget who he pardoned, but he's more apt to pardon some goofy celebrity because his political knowledge is that of a thimble. But what have you. I don't think he can win again, but it's not because of popularity. Now it is really because of the major legal challenges that he faces with the Department of Justice, with the Attorney General of New York, the DA of Manhattan. He has many legal woes.
Right, and running for president gives him makes it harder for his potential rival, the current Democratic president, to pursue investigations against him, because he can then say it's just a political hit job. That's the theory, right? Is that the campaign is less about him wanting to be president and more about his attempt to sort of insulate himself from legal trouble.
I mean, he can say that, and I don't want to put my faith in, how stupid America can get, but I really would like to hope that America's not that stupid, but you never know. So, anything can happen. I mean, at this point though, too, with the other thing is the Republican thing is getting split, because now you have Pence, who feels as though he's a contender.
Yeah.
And then you got DeSantis,
Yeah.
as well, who really might be a contender, because DeSantis at least has some swag. Pence is very bland in all his delivery and very, he kind of scares me. People who generally deliver in that tonality, it's almost robotic. It's almost very androidy.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's medicated or whatever, but he might be so desensitized from human stuff that also worries me. I like somebody with a little passion. I don't want insane passion like Donald Trump, but I need you to be a human and things actually move your meter up and down.
Well, and I'll say this about Mike Pence, which is interesting, is that before these days, right, before he was Donald Trump's vice president, the thing that you could say about Mike Pence, because all of us in Washington knew him, we'd all covered him in the House. What you knew about Mike Pence is that he invariably described himself as a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. And that part was true, is that Mike Pence was a Christian first. That was his agenda, was his faith. And nobody had any doubt about that and his faith. What was interesting was that he was working for Trump, who clearly was not working from a position of faith, but had managed to sort of somehow
Manipulate.
corral. I wasn't sure what the word was, but yeah, maybe that's the word. But he somehow managed to corral the faith community behind him, or the evangelical community behind him, despite the fact that he was so clearly not a person of faith. But at least for Mike Pence, again, in the pre-Trump era, we could always have a pretty good idea of what Mike Pence was going to be thinking or doing, because you knew, and he would tell you straight up front, this is based on my faith. And you could respect that even if you disagreed with it, right? So who knows whether that has changed in the sort of post-Trump era.
Well, the problem with that too is that and this is also too by the way, we've talked about this on this broadcast station many times. It's also why I don't like people who are that deeply convicted with religion to serve in office, because at some point we remember the God-fearing men of yesteryear said Negroes did not have a soul, and therefore were the same as a donkey, and da-da-da-da. So, or women even. I mean, just for those who are paying attention, look up when Black people got the right to vote, and look up when women got the right to vote. Check it out.
But Jamal, I'm smart enough to not come into a broadcast in a Jamaican restaurant with Pastor Hobbs and Pastor Wall and Pastor Priscilla over there, who are also probably going to buy my breakfast in a few minutes, and I'm going to say something nasty about the Christians. I don't think so.
Well,
so, right now, I'm in a community of faith right now that makes me feel very welcome.
Yeah, and not for nothing. See, they're not the bad actors.
Right. Thank you.
See, so it's okay, and this is why I'm even here, because if I thought that they were of the ilk of the the Jim Baker ilk, or the the Pat Robertson ilk, or the Creflo Dollar ilk, despite what Reverend Pastor Hobbs might be wearing this evening, I mean, it's okay. But literally, like, I know that these people are people who really, give a darn, and are concerned, and are real people, and they're not just play pimping with the faith. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
And what we need to do, in my opinion, as activists, as journalists, as community, all of our focus, to me, should be on two things: one, solutions, and two, what I'm going to call the BS detector, the exposing of the frauds, because really that's what is preventing us from getting to the next level of anything. If it's in a political sense,
I love it.
We as a country, if we have, if our quote unquote leader globally is seen as a Donald Trump, we look stupid to the world. Right? And so we need to prevent that from happening. On a microcosm, when we have quote unquote people who are pushing leadership and are not qualified to lead, we need to call it out the same way we do on the national level. And that's it.
I hear that. I appreciate that point.
I hear that and I appreciate that as well. You know, holding ourselves and each other accountable, all right? Community, right? That's what it's relationship, deep relationship. Again, for me, the meeting that had happened on yesterday with the superintendent, I love that one of the people who were the staff from BPS was talking about what the students really need and talking about deep, meaningful, trusting, healthy relationships. Like they don't know how to connect like that because of the pandemic, because of technology. You know, people are not having genuine, authentic, intimate relationships, and they don't know how to do that skill set. So what you're talking about, Jamal, is us having those relationships and building this movement. I call it a state of emergency because there's an urgency. We need a state of emergency healing and empowering movement. So we model it, like you said, a microcosm, and other folks will join it because the truth of the matter is everything else is falling. So while we're building this that needs to happen, what is in existence that is negative, that people are just kind of stuck in and operating and fighting each other, as opposed to how do we build coalition? How do we build a movement that's self-sustaining, that's not reactionary to everything that happens, but is sustained and proactive as opposed to reactive?
But Pastor, I mean, this seems to be maybe more your expertise than mine, right? Because you are in the business as a minister of helping people build their personal relationships, in some cases their personal relationships to God, but also the personal relationships to their community, right?
Yes.
And I don't know what system can make that work. I don't know if these young people are not in a church, right? Where are they getting guidance on building personal relationships? Where are they getting drawn out of their iPhone, out of their gaming system, and into a community of engagement? I honestly, I just don't know the answer to that question. I'm sort of thinking, where is the expertise? Who are the people who can help teach these young people how to engage with their peers and with their communities in a more personal, fundamental level? I don't know who to send. I don't know who to call. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because I was talking to my barber the other day, a black barber, one of the few black barbers that really exist. And you know, right here, Cut to Fit, and this brother, young man, has been doing this for a long time, and talking about doing free haircuts for kids and helping them have self-esteem, and and meeting youth where they are at. I went to another meeting that was Reverend Kevin Peterson had New Democracy Coalition around responding to the violence. And, they were attributing a lot of the violence to the youth, 14, 17 years old, shootings we're hearing, broad daylight. So they're saying, but those folks were not in the room, right? It was adults talking about how to be just them, and they're not there. They're the ones that need to be there
but hold
to
on,
have the
see.
conversation with, right? And so it was proposed that we need to go to where they are. We're always wanting them to come to us, but we've got to go to them. Pastor Wall, what he did before, when after Talk Baptist, when he did this addressing the violence, people was, homicides were off the chain, was created a space, a sanctuary at the Shebu skating rink, right? Where kids could,
that's where kids would be.
And people who were mourning could come to this neutral space and skate, but it was really more about building community and relationship and a safe place, but utilizing skating that was a place to draw them from wherever they are, that they could come to this. So I think that kind of meant we need to create something that we're not saying come to us, but we create we go to them and find out what we need to create that's comfortable for them to come to, that we can build deep relationships with, to be able to hear them.
That's funny. I remember, I'm old enough to remember midnight basketball. You remember those midnight basketball leagues?
Yes, midnight basketball. We don't have any of those kind of things. Go ahead, Jamal.
Yeah.
So I heard you get ready to say something.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the thing. Should those things happen? Absolutely. But that is also not a solution. So, for instance, what Pastor Wall did at the time, genius, revolutionary, cutting edge, and all that.
Yep.
But only some kids went to skate. Only some kids viewed that as a sanctuary.
True.
And dare I say, most of the kids that would even go into that environment, or the boys clubs, or the Y, or all of some of the churches that had youth centers or whatever, those are really not the problem kids. Secondly, when somebody like the Reverend Doctor, I'm gonna call him the Right Reverend Doctor, Kevin Peterson, says something like, we need to engage or whatever, or the shootings are happening at 14 to 17. That's actually just not true. So if we're gonna develop a solution, the solution should be, at least in my opinion, based on the reality of what's going on. Okay?
Yeah.
So the reality is that 14 to 17-year-old kids are not routinely shot, and 14 to 17-year-old people are not routinely the shooters. The real area is really more often into the 20s. And a lot of us older fellas got some problems too, because you see a lot of these people, 36, 40 something, whatever. So I think that it's it's actually a stereotype that, these youth are just out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And really, even like his call for a curfew of 13 and under. Okay. By 10 p.m. And then in the weeks thereafter, all of these shootings occurred, no 13 and under kids involved, and nothing that happened after 10 p.m. So what I'm saying is, once again, I'm all for solutions, but like, if you want to catch a polar bear, don't go to the desert in Arizona. They're not there.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's got to be based on reality.
Let's be accurate. Yes, let's be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. So solution driven. What is your suggestion with how do we engage everybody, right? And what is the solution? What is the strategy? What do we do from your perspective to address, the violence?
Look, it's the same. Look, I've said this a bunch of times. I'm gonna say it again just now for all the folks who haven't heard it before. Look, you're never gonna solve violence. You're never gonna solve conflict between people. So the only thing that we could do is work to remove it. Okay. So I don't know if folks know how much a gun costs. If you wanted a cheap toss away gun that's been used a bunch of times, a little cheap, that's still gonna cost you, I don't know, 100, 200 bucks. If you want something nice, that's probably gonna cost you, I don't know, a G to 1500 or something like that, a little 9mm, little something, whatever. So the real question is, right now, people want a PS5, but there's only a limited amount of people who have a PS5.
Mm-hmm.
So the question really is in the guns. How do these kids, who in every other situation in their life are in poverty, but the couple of things that they can manage to get their hands on is sneakers and guns, both of which are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as I've said before, there needs to be a databasing of the guns, all of the guns without the serial numbers obliterated, and now manufacturers are putting the serial numbers deeply embedded inside the gun, so you can't even get rid of it anymore, blah, blah, blah. But there needs to be a database, because if in a year, Boston police take 1,000 guns off the street and 750 of them are Smith & Wesson, that is not a coinky dink. That is a pattern. And then we go to these manufacturers. Hey, these guns that are all missing from either your owners or off of your manufacturing loss or your distributors or whatever, we need to tighten it up. So I'll give you this example to make it all make sense. Let's say you really hate somebody. You hate your neighbor. You hate your boss. You hate your ex-lover, whatever. You want to kill them. You have murderous thoughts in your heart. And the way you're going to kill them is arsenic. Where do you get some arsenic?
I was about to ask, where do you get your hands on arsenic?
There you go. And that's my point. Henceforth, why we don't have mad. So
mass poisonings. Yeah.
there you go. People want to kill people. It's a natural thing. You get mad, you wanna kill somebody. Some people are cooked up. But you can only kill people by the means which are at your disposal. Okay? So if you take the guns out the equation, then maybe stabbings will go up.
Yeah.
You get the knives out the equation, maybe it'll be sticks and stones will finally really break your bones. You know what I mean? We don't know. But all I'm saying is that the fact that kids who can't even pull their pants up, literally, kids who can't even drive, literally, kids who can't drink, literally, can find a 9mm, a Tech 9, a 357, a 380, a 44, 40 caliber, whatever. That is the part of our society where the failure is, and it's and it ain't to the NRA's credit. It ain't got nothing to do. Well, it has a little bit to do with the responsible gun owners, because some people are selling these things illegally and whatnot. But this is not a responsible gun owner thing. But if you got a house in New Hampshire with mad guns, and you got a little daughter who's hanging around with some people, and your house gets robbed, and now all your guns are missing, guess what? If I can go to Maine and buy from a dealer who on a private sale does not have to identify himself or me, then guess what? So this is how it happens. That's the thing. It's the availability of guns. If guns were not so available, when I was a kid, it was harder to get a gun until guns became super ready. But back in the day, we all had little 22s, but now you could literally get Rambo RoboCop guns. You know, and God forbid if you're down south or you have a cousin down south or something like that. I mean, so that's the part we need to examine. The guns that are captured, where the guns are coming from, shutting down the gun pipeline, because if folks do not have guns, then it would just go back to fist fights and eventually sticks and stones.
It's an excellent point, Jamal. And Ron's here in the background, you know, and he said that's an outstanding point. He wanted me to make sure that I told you that that's an outstanding point. So, and I agree. So how do we make that happen? I mean, I hear you, I feel you, and that makes a whole lot of sense. So how do we implement or communicate that as a real practical strategy to, you know, curtail some of the homicides and the violence that we see via guns?
Well, once again, that's part of the plan that I put out. I put it out formally when I ran for office in 2013. I had developed it at least probably 3, 4, 5 years before that.
Okay.
But it's at least been publicly out since I've been asking for this under several past commissioners. And I mean, just the databasing to get that data. And this is based on, you know, if you see across the country, certain people, certain families and whatnot have done lawsuits against actual gun manufacturers. And via the fact that, for instance, Smith & Wesson is so close to us right here in Springfield, you know, there are certain things, and with gun dealers and, you know, all of these people are regulated by certain authorities. So it's no different than if all of a sudden with the opioid crisis, if all of a sudden you found out that, you know, 90% of this oxycodone, cotton, and all this stuff off the street was coming from Walgreens, you might be like, hold on, hey, something's happening in this manufacturing loop. It's either a doctor who's doing the fake scripts, it's a pharmacist who's giving it up, but whatever, we need to examine that. And that's what I'm talking about for the guns.
You know, and Jamal has a point here that we did a story it must have been a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. We had a freelance reporter, a guy named Coleman Herman, who had gotten the data on the loss of opioid pills by local pharmacies. and he found out that, I guess it was CVS, had, lost far more pills than any other pharmacy in the state, and they had penalties that were supposed to be affiliated with this and stuff like that. And the point being that there was a database that was tracking which pharmacies were losing pills. So my question then is, well, is there a database that is tracking which gun dealers are losing guns? Like, are there guns falling out of the back of the store, or off the back of the truck, as we used to say?
Now, Singer,
Right?
as a journalist, you know that they're
Mhm.
going to tell you no, but it's a
Mhm.
lie. Because if you could track a little white pill that ain't nothing but like, a centimeter square, you can't tell me that you don't know what happened to a hunk of metal that was assembled with multiple parts, all of which that are engraved and encoded with manufacturer marks, lot, date, production time, all of that. So it's a big lie. And this is where the NRA and the gun industry doesn't want to give you up the secrets. But I mean, shit, as you know, if you were in your apartment, you drank a bottle of Poland Spring, or you ate a hamburger, and all of a sudden you get E. coli and die, they can trace that thing all the way back from the rooter to the tutor.
Yep.
Okay? Now, you can't tell me you can't do that with a piece of metal. We can trace water. We can trace hamburger that's going to come out your butt, but we can't trace a piece of metal. Come on.
Didn't Darren Howell do some work around and with working with Chuck Turner around guns and tracking them or something like that?
No, not guns. He did the 20-year homicide report.
Oh, the homicide. Okay.
If you
So,
search it up, it should still be there. 20-year homicide report. Put his name in it, and I believe it's still active on our website, Blackstonian.
So again, to your point, Jamal. So going to these meetings, talking about the violence, as I told you. So they had the faith community. We went to one that was initially, I think they had 6 people shot in a 5-hour. I'm sorry, 6 people shot in 1 hour span of time. In 3 different locations, and so emergency meeting was called. Community stakeholders, and they had the mayor, they had the superintendent, commissioner, and state representatives, and people from the community, and so they had a few people talk, and then the meeting was resolved, and we went away again. The social minutes, or none of that was captured. What's our next steps? None of that. So we'll see. They're talking about having those meetings intermittently being hosted at people's churches. But I'm your strategy that's very concrete and practical. I want to know, how do we work with you to make that a reality? Thank you.
So, in order for people to work with me, there are requirements.
Okay.
Right? So it's just like, any organization or whatever. If you have to fill out an application, or you have to, before you get your driver's license, you have to read and show some level of mastery of the driver's license manual. Okay. So before anybody works with me, there's a basic level of knowledge that we have to be at, and that goes beyond just reading, writing, arithmetic. Because if you ain't figured out those basics, I can't have you do research if you can't read and comprehend. So we got to start there. Okay.
Station ID time.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, we got to pause for our station ID, so we will do that. Turn it over to Renee. I'm gonna eat some more food, and we'll do that.
Yeah, right. Singer breakfast time.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Why don't y'all play a PSA about talking with your mouth full?
Woo, stop it.
Hey, but
Stop it.
and why don't you advertise Taste of Eden restaurant where we're all having breakfast this morning?
Yeah, man, come on. I don't know. And we are back here at the Taste of Eden restaurant, the Boston Praise Radio and TV Network crew and family. We're here and want you to join us. We have about another hour before we will conclude this live remote broadcast. The crew from Boston Praise Radio and TV Network, our founder and CEO, the young 74-year Bishop Overseer, Pastor Emeritus, is in the house. Our Pastor Bruce Wall. There he is, our fearless leader. And all the people in the back, we got Ron Bell here, we got Brother Singer here, we got our brother Jamal here, our station manager, Renee Wise, she's holding it down, and Minister Banks, she's here as well, over here. So, can I what? Yeah, I can. Yes.
So people were supposed to come here to broadcast. Someone was supposed to come here to broadcast. Ron Bell broadcast, Singer broadcast.
Can I hear him?
Nope, it went out for me.
We can't hear you, Pastor Bruce.
Man, that was me taking a hit for the team. I would never do that. I only did it because we're eating, we're here, we want to, I'm trying to multitask.
But the chicken is so good.
It is real good. I got to get a piece of chicken.
I'm afraid of
fried chicken.
I'm no longer on the radio. I'm in heaven.
What do you say? What do you say, Singer?
I'm sorry, like I am not on the radio anymore. I'm in heaven because this Taste of Eden food. I'm sitting here having the cod and the greens and the grits. And it's like I'm just you all talk amongst yourselves.
I thought you were talking about the audio.
Now you see what I mean, right?
I thought you were talking about the audio because the audio went out.
See what I mean? That's like great. I said, Pastor, how good is that?
Okay.
Jamal, are you watching this?
Okay, so the audio is still good. Everybody can hear everybody?
Yes, we can.
I hear you.
Okay, because it went out for a minute. And I was just going to tell Renee maybe she needs to turn Pastor Hobbs' suit down.
Damn.
That ain't nice. Don't hate.
Well, we kind of winding down, and I had invited my friends to come to the Taste of Eden and the broadcast. But once the food came out, everyone disappeared, and the only one that was left was Pastor Hobbs. But Pastor Hobbs was only there hoping that somebody was going to bring some food. And once he got his food, he was actually eating the food live on the air. He kept talking.
I feel like we're on the cooking network now, right? Like, ooh, yeah. Like,
Can't hear you.
Yeah, something went off again.
Pastor, I don't know. Something's going on with that mic that you guys are using.
we lost Pastor Hobbs. Take yourself off mute for a second. Let me see if I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Now.
Okay.
And can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear everyone now.
Okay, but you said you couldn't hear me. So you hear me? You can.
Well, we could not hear you beforehand.
Okay, so you can hear me now. Okay. So there's a light flashing on my microphone. It flashes blue, red, and green. Blue, red, and green. Does the red say that the batteries are weak? Does the blue say that I'm close to God? Does the green say I'm coming in the public? Are you?
No, the green says you spilled curry juice all in the microphone.
Jamal, why are you here? If you had taken an Uber, if they were holding shot, yeah, wait. You live right down the street. Right down the street. Jamal,
Oh no, I don't live over there no more. I'm not right down the street anymore.
are you serious?
Yeah, no, I'm parts unknown, baby. Yeah, listen.
Parts unknown.
Yeah.
Undisclosed location.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jamal, keep talking. We'll find you.
Yeah, in the name of one of the local pastors, I'm 30,000 feet in the air.
Who that?
Well, I have a question.
That's Reverend Rivers. He always says that.
Oh, really?
I have a question.
Oh yeah, I'm 30,000 feet in the air. Yeah, big.
Okay, Renee, how am I doing on my sound now?
Not great.
Now let me ask y'all this: on Jamaican cuisine, are y'all eating dumpling? And if you eat dumpling, do you do boiled dumpling or fried dumpling? And if you do plantain, do you do boiled plantain or fried plantain or sweet plantain? What do you do?
Well, so Jamal, I'm actually standing here at the counter. There are some dumplings here that appear to be fried. They've got oh man, a mac and cheese just came out. There is some good-looking fried chicken, and I'm having the cod. It's a baked dish. I'm having it with greens and over grits. So, but I don't see any plantains out yet. But then again, it's still only 9 o'clock in the morning, and it might be there's more food coming. So there's your report from the buffet.
and if you eat that macaroni and cheese and that fried chicken, you're going to be taking a nap by 10:30.
Oh yes, I plan to.
Some folks are taking a nap, but to your point about the boiled or fried plantains or dumplings, I've eaten them all, but I actually prefer the fried. I know the boiled is probably better for you, so I like them both. Yeah, I like them both. I definitely have had them. I didn't eat them this morning. I do like the ackee and saltfish. I know that's the national dish. I really like that.
What about callaloo? Have you had callaloo?
I love callaloo. It's the closest thing I can get. It's the only green thing it seems that Jamaicans have. I have to say, I like collard greens, and they don't have collard greens. And I don't really care for cabbage so much. That seems to be the staple that Jamaican restaurants give you as the vegetable is cabbage. So callaloo, I like it because it's dark green and it's closer to collard greens. So I do like the callaloo. And I always wondered why in Jamaican restaurants they don't have more green, greens.
Well, no, most Jamaican restaurants do have greens, but you got to go around the back for that.
Oh, for real?
That's a marijuana joke. That's a marijuana joke, Pastor Hobb.
Our awesome rep is here. How are you?
So now we're just having a community gathering here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which,
That's Rep Nika Elugado.
yeah. You are missing all the fun, Jamal. And I gotta say, anybody in the community, this is the hot spot to be this morning down here, right off of Talbot Street. You're right nearby.
That's okay.
Rep Elugado is here.
There you go.
They're all coming in. We got young people coming in. Again, Representative Nika Elugado. She is in the house, and she's a strong advocate for a lot of the work that we're doing in the community, particularly with returning citizens. So we're so pleased that she took time to come on down and to be with us here in this fellowship.
Does she have any thoughts or announcements in terms of what her next steps may be, or the incoming folks, or what her future plans are? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question, Jamal. And certainly we'll ask her. I know she was gonna try to get some food real quick. That's what she's doing this minute, but I think that's an excellent question. You know that she just was one of the candidates that ran for the 5th Suffolk Senatorial seat. Oh, 2nd Suffolk, forgive me, 2nd Suffolk. Second Suffolk Senate seat. So, and we know that former Senator Diane Wilkerson was another candidate, Maynard Culpepper, Pastor Culpepper, as well as James Grant, as well as Liz Miranda. And Liz Miranda won, so she's our senator-elect. And so we're looking forward to working with her to continue to do really aggressive prison reform and civic engagement, moving to universal suffrage, where everybody has the right to vote, and restore the right for felons here in Massachusetts that happened up into, I believe, 2000 under the Cellucci administration. Jamal? You hear me? You sound, no. Jamal?
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I think.
Hello, you can't hear me?
I think we're having feedback. Either one of us to mute.
How's that? Better?
Yeah. So what were you saying, Jamal?
So at the end of the day, you know, once again, as she's getting in settled and everything, getting her food and everything. But yeah, I would definitely like to hear, you know, her take on you know, the new Senate, you know, thing. I would also like to hear her take on what has happened with redistricting with Boston. You know, now that the new map has been unveiled, you know, and just hear what her future plans are, because this is sometimes what's horrible about elections, because you can't pick everybody, right? And she is a person who I believe, like, how could I say, we shouldn't have lost her. That's a person that if that's not a card that you want to throw away, that's a card you want to keep. But sometimes with these elections, when it comes down to, you know, only one, sometimes we lose people who are good for us too. And I hope that she is going to continue in the, you know, in the work that she has been doing, both politically and local organizing. I see she's there now, so she's not going to talk with her mouth full like you.
Ooh. Talk with your mouth full like I did. I was eating and talking.
I'm about to eat it right off the French plate. So I heard a little bit of what was that Jamal?
Yeah.
Hello, my friend. He's one of the people I know better than he knows me. But you don't have to worry about that with me. Like, I think a lot of people recognize I wasn't a typical politician. And not that there really is a typical politician, but I didn't come by it the normal way, right? Thinking like, oh, I want to be a political leader. You know, God really called me into that. I had to get used to the idea. But what that means is I'm always going to do what I've always been doing. So winning or losing an election doesn't like mess up my flow. Like we win some things, we lose some things. And we're always doing good work. And we always find a space to do it. And I've been especially blessed that I've been able to have my profession be that. For a lot of people, you have to be bivocational. You know,
So,
the work you need to do.
Excuse me, Nika.
Yes,
Pastor Bruce and Ron, if you guys are gonna talk, can you move away from Pastor Hobbs?
The station manager said,
Thank you.
Move away, you're interrupting our broadcast.
We apologize.
it's not me.
That's the station manager.
Sorry.
I was enjoying the ambient noise myself. No, but you know, it's just regular life.
we're just regular people. You know, you win some things, you lose some things. It doesn't change who you are. God wasn't thrown off. God wasn't like taken aback. God wasn't like, oh my gosh, what happened? This election didn't go how I thought, you know, and so what God says to me is, what is the thing that I have for you that you can only do by running for state senate with integrity, in obedience, and losing?
Yeah.
That's a path. What comes next? And even though it's disappointing because of the opportunity cost to our people, as far as I'm concerned, in my life, you don't have to worry about whether I'm going to stop or start something. I'm going to be 50 next year. I'm not going to become a different person now because I lost an election. You know, so I have many offers. I haven't, and he felt the need to say behind me he'll be 60. Did you just say?
That's right.
That's my big brother back there, Rob Bell, everyone. He's going to be 60.
Pastor Wall been 60 twice.
Okay, Jamal. Yeah, you've been 60 twice, Pastor, he said.
So I have some options in the area of public safety, in the area of housing, in the area of food security. And I haven't even applied for anything yet. So these are offers that have come to me in the area of more specific within public safety, fundraising around the needs of returning citizens, you know, just a lot of really strong options, more than I've ever had in my life. And like I said, I've been blessed even out of the humble beginnings that we all come out of and that I come out of. I've always been blessed, but never like this. It's like, I'm gonna be vulnerable with y'all and tell y'all this. I have never in my life been so focused and obedient to God for 10 months straight. And I just did that. And I was like, win or lose, like I've never been so successful at that. Like, because you know how we'll be obedient, but inside we'll be complaining.
Oh yeah.
And so people are like, oh, you have a lot of faith, you follow God. But inside I'm like waffling.
Yes.
And what I project is focused. But for this last 10 months, inside,
And
outside,
wow.
what you saw on the outside is what was happening inside.
Wow.
And I usually can manage that for like a week or two.
10 months.
But for 10 months straight, the Holy Spirit was like, we are doing this.
Wow.
And we're gonna do it my way. I learned a lot. I wouldn't do it the same way the second time. I'm not saying I didn't make mistakes. I made a million mistakes. But the mistake I didn't make was taking my eyes off God. And I think that that's not unrelated to why I have all of these opportunities coming out of the woodwork that are lucrative financially, that are in passion areas for me and my people, that will enable me to move the needle in the movement on Black justice in Boston and beyond. And I'm excited to tell you about one of them, but because of the way they're coming to me, they're all sort of confidential. So when I choose one and they really choose me, because you know, people offer you stuff. When they offer you stuff under the table, I never, because where I come from, I never know if it's real until you put that thing on paper.
Yeah.
You say you're going to pay me that to do this?
Yes.
Okay, can I see that in writing?
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, give me a couple weeks. Okay, I'll see what you pay me in a couple weeks. So when I say offers, I don't mean I have pieces of paper. I mean high ups in various sectors have said, I want you to come and work with me doing transformational work. I want you to blow this thing up with me. And that's what I love to do. You know, systems change for our people. So I will be nearby in every case. The things that my work I'm going to do have in common that God has shown me is going to definitely bear on returning citizens in some way. All of it does. Even the housing and food security stuff is related to that. It's going to definitely bear on Black economic justice and reparations. It's going to definitely bear on abolition, not just in the sense of prisons, but also wage equity. So one of those. And it's going to definitely be in a setting where I have significant authority to develop leaders who are making big changes. And so they all have that in common in different ways, some small, some large scale, like statewide. But I'm excited about all of them. And my top choice right now is the public safety and security options, because that's the most messed up part of our system. And if I'm really being invited to blow that up and rebuild it, then I will accept that offer. So that's where
May I interject and issue a challenge as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so sister, and I hope Priscilla is in the background. I hope everybody else is in the vicinity to hear this.
Priscilla,
This is
can you come over for a second? I'm getting her to just make sure she hears.
Thank you. Because this is exactly what I'm talking about with skills. So one of the things, Sister Nika, with you just coming out the State House, one of the critical things that I think, and I've asked, on the higher up level, and I still don't have a grasp, and I've moved a couple things. One thing that I think would be very beneficial that you could do could be a light lift, couple hours, could be on Zoom, could be at a place like Mamley or whatever. But if you could teach people about legislation, first of all, what legislation is, and then actually how to write and propose legislation and the process by which successful legislation.
Should we do a radio show?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's
That's
do a
what
radio
I'm saying.
show. You know who
Okay.
else was sort of interested in that was the Heat.
The Heat?
Oh, 98.9.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yeah. Let's put a couple radio shows together. One for Black praise, and
Boston Black News, but it's okay, Black
all the
News.
Black
Did someone say radio show? Did someone say radio?
Yeah.
Let's fix that. What would you think after all?
That's another one.
GBH has never made the offer, but I would accept.
But let me just say this
So I
though
love
too.
the radio. I like television, but I love the radio.
But let me just
And
say
I love
this though.
teaching on the radio.
Let me just say this though too. At one point, some of the great leaders in our community came together and they did what was called the CEFP, Community Enrichment Fellowship Program. That was people like Senator Owen, Mel King, his daughter Pam King, Doris Bunty, Dr. Joseph Warren, so on and so forth. And they put together an actual curriculum, which many of us at the time, as I'm gonna say younger leadership, went through. They had a couple iterations of it, whatnot. But what I would say that is, if you do this, please, because the radio is good, but it has to be, in my view, it should be created with a model where it's almost like a little pseudo class. People need to have materials that they are reading. People need to have checks on like where they are understanding.
I have this.
Okay, good. All right, well, that's all I'm saying.
So I don't know if you heard of I can't remember, a Miro board. You know what a Miro board is? It's like a giant whiteboard online, and it's infinite, so you can keep making sections of it. So I told somebody before I was thinking about Senate, before Sonia had stepped down or anything, I want to take what I've been teaching people about legislation one-on-one, and I want to turn it into a group of a series of like 40 2-3 minute videos. And so they sat down with me for like a year when I was sick, because I can't be too still. So that year that I was sick, we made up a Miro board with like 40 different storyboards for this. And then I started it, I got to number 3, and then I decided to run for Senate. And so that project is just sitting there. But the content, it's not like super, you know how it is, the whiteboard style of it, it's not like what you would hand to people, but the content is all there. And so if anybody wants to help me, we could turn that into a curriculum, we could put it in your school.
You need to talk to Dr. Jackie Jenkins Scott over at RCC. See, saying turn, and
Aim
this
for
is
all
what I
of these
mean.
options. Just tell me what I can't do. Oh, my brother's leaving, but of course I'm blanking on his name right now.
Your brother? Oh,
He's
see?
not my brother.
Oh, the young man with the orange jacket.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm underslept this week, and so my name recall is bad. Bernard.
Oh.
Bye, Bernard. It came to me. So. I just wanted to give you a hug.
Very soon.
All right, come on.
All right.
All right. You can share any of your food with me. That's okay.
You don't want that.
I did want
You don't
that.
want
I did want some.
You wanted something more healthy.
Oh, was it not healthy? I am trying to be healthy. Y'all, 10 months of campaigning the way I did. Never eat like that in your whole life. I went to the doctor afterwards. I had all kinds of conditions I've never had.
Really?
Yes.
I'm eating food.
Anyway, I'm moving to the other. And then I just eat whatever's in front of me, which I've never done in my whole life. Anyway, sorry, that's not what y'all were talking about. But yes, I am. But what I'm trying to say is, we can start small or we can go big. But what I don't have the capacity to do is do it by myself. So, but I can provide the content. What I can't do is like make the materials nice, you know? So if we have people that can take the content, work with me. We could turn it into PowerPoint, we could turn it into handouts, we could turn it into interactive web, depending on the skill set of the people around. I'm game for all of that.
Okay, so with what I deal with technology and all that's the easy part. So the other part is okay. Yeah, that's the easy part. So right here now, Priscilla, you're there as a witness. Ron Bell, Pastor Wall, Pastor Hobbs, all of these folks now, Singer. Hopefully we can get WGBH as well to chime in, because like in terms of doing database, data sets, data visualizations and whatnot, this is what I do, and
We gotta have a follow-up because I have some things to show you that we, when I did little teasers on this.
This is all, Priscilla, this is all what the Black agenda was supposed to be about. And once again, tapping into those who have the expertise. So clearly, people who have experience with legislation, we know Nika, we know Diane Wilkerson. We're going to get legislative experience on how this runs. Okay, if we know health people, right, then we know we're going to get a health program, the educators education program, all of this, it makes sense. We're going to use the expertise in our community.
Dr. Lucy Lomas is
I
doing
love her
that on the public health space, the Black public health space.
Really?
Yeah, making it like breaking it down for us. But let me tell you this, what I got in terms of content already, and we can develop this further. You remember Schoolhouse Rock?
Yes.
Oh my God, of course.
So what I was trying to do and can do with you is there's two elements of it. There's what does Black Schoolhouse Rock look like? And what does, it's like Schoolhouse Rock, but it's the parody of it because it's like, get real. This is what's really happening behind the scenes. So that's two.
Sister, you gotta get with me. We already did it.
What you say?
We already did it.
Who's we?
I'm saying we already did it. And there are people across the country. So right now, if you look up something on YouTube called Forward, he did it about a couple things. This is my brother. His name is
Can you drop that link?
He's a hip. Yeah, I will. He did he's hip hop producer. He's worked for Nas and everybody else. But he made these cartoon animations. And
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, he did his on Thanksgiving.
No, seriously, my bucket list, top of the list is being an animated voice.
I got you.
Are you serious?
Right here in Boston, and all of y'all are Christians, so you may remember like me. Remember them tracks when we were kids? They were like our little comic books.
The tracks that you give out to the people, about God.
Okay, that was.
I thought you said about music tracks.
That was JT. His name was JT Chick. So as important to me as a kid with Marvel and DC Comics was also these religious comics, JT Chick.
Uh-oh, now Marcos is involved, my husband, now that you threw out Marvel and DC.
He likes this?
So now this is the guy who did those Bible tracks. What I realized in my adulthood is that, did you know that a Bible track is only a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper turned, you know, the other way, not the straight up way, but the other way, the long way, right? And it's those 3 slivers. It's cut in 3s, and then it's stapled in the middle. So me right here, y'all know VCR, Vernon Robinson, right?
Yeah.
He and I he sat there in my house and followed my lead and and he artistically drew out, and we did a reparations track.
Wow.
On this same concept. This was printed animation. And then the next step was to take it to exactly what you're talking about, Schoolhouse Rock, which is what we're working on right now, trying to do not only reparations one, but ones that are on Black history and whatnot. And the technology is there. So sister, let's connect. Let's do it.
I've got hours of content written, not to mention what's in my head. So yeah, I'm very excited, and you got me off on some other directions too. So yeah, let's just keep doing it. Let's just start it. That's not, you know, I don't like the plan thing. This type of thing, we could just do one. Just do one. We called them with my friend that was helping me out. We called them what was it? One take. You just like turn on the little video and you just do it.
Okay.
And then you don't have to put that on the web, you know, but you've done it. You've done it. Yeah. And then you could just edit it or whatever. Let's just start making it. We'll either do a show or we'll do a little video. You know, let's just pick a time. I'm going to be gone for 6 weeks because my mother-in-law has Parkinson's, y'all.
God bless.
We haven't been able to be there for her during the campaign. So not that you can fully make it up, but we're going to spend 6 weeks with her, like 4 to 6 weeks to help, because the family out there in Oklahoma is taking on a lot of burden, as is she. So be in prayer for her. But anyway, I'll be back in January.
And your husband is there too?
We already figuring out Marvel comics, like Christian Marvel political comics.
Yo, and not for nothing, peace to your husband. Peace to hubby. And now let me also clear this up for the Black community, because I try to be good, and I've always tried to not murder your name. So is it L.U. Gardo or Elagardo?
I was like, murder my name. I thought you were talking about trash talking.
Right, that's what I was
trying not to trash talk me.
No. So what is the connect
exactly right. There's an English pronunciation which sounds like the letter L, the letter U, and then Gardo. So you can do L.U. Gardo like you did. Boston, y'all can say El Gardo, that's fine. And then in Spanish, it's El Gardo.
Oh boy.
So I answered all of those and others.
Okay, so the L is more the Y action, even though it's not the double L. It's more Y up in there.
In English, it's L.U. Gardo.
Okay.
And then in Spanish, it's El Gardo.
El Gardo. Okay.
Yeah, just because of how the vowels go different in Spanish. And then, you know, my maiden name was Lee, so everybody called me Nika Lee. My dad was Carl Lee. You know, that came from Robert E. Lee's brother's plantation mill, so it was fine with me to allow it. I love my name, though. I loved Nika Lee, but Marcos was a little traditional around that.
Yeah.
Because in Boston,
I like my name, and he was like, well, you're going to like my name. I was like, fine. That's not a fight I'm a pick over Robert E. Lee.
Okay.
In Boston, I heard you called Elegado.
Yeah, people say that a lot.
What I say? Oh.
He's calling me?
No, he's calling.
He's calling Ron? Okay. Yeah. No, I love this, Jamal. Thank you for bringing it up, because it was something, as you can tell, was on my heart, but has been back shelved. And so I do like to, but God has led me not to, just like force things. You got to wait for the time.
Yes.
And so it seemed like it wasn't the time. And so I put it on the side, and now I can see it's because it needed to be more Black. Like it needed to be more Black than I could be as a legislator. Because as a legislator, I gotta talk to all my constituents.
Ah,
If I'm doing something like teaching about legislation, I could do a Black version, but then I'm leaving out,
other,
in the district I have,
Yeah.
I'm leaving out 60% of my,
of course.
70% of my people. But I just want to do a Black one.
Listen,
Like I want to do one for Black people.
yeah,
And that would be more fun for me, you know?
yeah, yeah. Listen, there was no
We
way.
can have guest speakers that can come on to Latinx, Cape Verde, and whatever.
Yes.
You know, and then, you know, we just focus on us.
I love it. I know. That's how I learned. You know, I mean, the Schoolhouse
There we
Rock.
go.
Definitely, the Schoolhouse Rock was the thing that helped me. It's only I'm a Bill, only a Bill, sitting here on Capitol Hill. You know what I'm
And
saying?
Schoolhouse Rock was a lot of fun, but it's also not real
Mhm.
because you get in there
Yeah.
and even a lot of legislators don't understand how things work. And I know this because, you know, I'm an analytical person by nature and training.
Yep.
And so I was constantly analyzing, oh, here's how this works, here's how that works. And sometimes my colleagues would say, how did you move that? How did you do that? And it's very predictable in there. There's certain principles. Just as an example, I had this one seasoned legislator come to me about a bill I was supporting him when he drafted it. It was on match savings. You know, match savings is a field I used to work in where people who have very little money, you get them to save some of it and then you get other entities to match it and then they're able to buy assets. That's a simple concept, right? It used to be funded by the legislature. So he comes and he's like, Nika, we need to do a briefing to get people to support this. And I said, well, to support what? The concept, does anybody even know what it is? No. Well, why are you gonna have a rally about something nobody knows what it is yet? So the Schoolhouse Rock version, it's like, listen, first you gotta figure out, is this an idea people know or not? Then you figure out is an idea people agree with or not. The strategy you take when people don't even know what you're talking about should be different than the strategy you take when people already know what you're talking about. And he was like, I didn't think of that. Thank you. What do you think we should do? I'm like, we're gonna have an education session where you find out every district that has a match savings program and you tell the people who come, here's how your district is getting money out of match savings. And then they can see it in a very practical way, what it is and what it does. And then we'll have a follow-up thing where you go and recruit their support. And so those just like breaking stuff down in the strategy, that's something nobody knows. And if our people can be the ones that really are the holders of that, like Mel them and Doris and them we're trying to get and had going in our day, and it got derailed by, I think, just like general 80s materialism. I don't know what happened, but we need to get that sense back of our people can lead, because we're good at the hustle, we're good at common sense, we're good at breaking down what is really happening here. Not what the words you're saying, white man, but what is actually happening here. And our whole nation has lost the ability to do that. And I think African Americans have a very special skill in that area of like discerning what is real and what really makes something work. And that's why our kids check out. I spent a lot of time in India. Kids in India, if your mother is trafficked, sex trafficked, and you're a girl, you have a over 90% chance of being trafficked. And if you're a boy, your chances are much higher as well. Even knowing this information, children of people who are being trafficked in the streets work as hard to get straight A's as kids from rich families, even though they're going to end up in the streets. If you could combine that ability to go for it with our ability to be real and to know when a hustle is not going to turn out for you, we will have the strongest kids on the planet. And so I want to equip our kids to say, no matter what you see, we're going to figure out how this hustle works. And you're going to lead us, not just us Black people, but as Black people, our destiny is to lead our city, to lead our nation, to show them how it's done. That's why we had to go through everything we went through. That's why we're here. Stop trying to figure out how to get what the white man has. They need to get what we have. So I want to do my part with y'all to provide the tools, because it's not rocket science. And I went to MIT, I know what rocket science is. It's definitely not rocket science. It's easy stuff, it's just overlooked because it's not sexy. And so we can make it sexy with your cartoon guy.
So now,
We can do
check
like the
this out.
staff version.
Now check this out. Pastor Hobbs, Priscilla, Pastor Wall, again, this is what I've been talking about. A lot of times and Bell, Ron Bell, what we've been doing a lot of times in the Black community, we do voter pushes. Everybody get out to vote. Vote, vote, vote. Nobody is doing voter education.
Right.
And even more than that, what I loved about the Panthers at the time is they did what is called political education.
Yeah.
Because as you know, in our schools or whatever, I'll never forget one of the stories is when Ayanna first got in as a city councilor. And people were asking her to pick up Diane Wilkerson's work. And they didn't even understand the difference between a city councilor and a person that works in the state house, let alone a representative versus a senator. And then they don't understand a local representative or a local senator versus a national representative. Or so we're doomed.
Right. Look at this, Jamal. And there's a level, because you just laid out the 101. What is it? Okay. And then once you know the differences, it's like, okay, what's the inside game and what's the outside game?
That's right.
Yeah.
Our people need to know the difference,
Yeah.
because we're electing people based on the outside game. And so we create all of these cute little superstars that run around able to talk about, I did this, this, and that. Like I could be that. I resisted it this time. I didn't win resisting it, but that's a learning curve for me.
I told you.
But I'm not excluding myself from that. Like what people want is they want us to put out there that little superstar thing. But no, the inside game is the one that matters. That's what Diane was trying to say. By the challenge, I don't like Diane's inside game, but she at least understands what it is and can navigate it the way she wants it to go. But we need somebody that's going to navigate the inside game the way that the people need it to go. And that's the sweet spot, because we got people that do one or the other. They do inside or they do outside. But you need to do inside, outside in a way that empowers the people to be doing it.
Exactly.
That's what Mel and Doris and all of them were about. None of them were about, this is me. And Mel raised me basically, and is still raising me as far as I'm concerned from his bed. And literally we met years at a time every week. And he is the only person apart from my husband that really understands how I'm wired. And so when he's gone, I need to make sure everything he's invested in me goes out to all of them. That was his plan. And that has to do with understanding how the inside game is the people's game too.
Okay,
it's not the inside game is like you learn how to navigate the white man. No, because I grew up street, but wasn't running the streets with my dad. He ran the streets for our family. And it was a bad idea. But you know how kids are, they think that's for your family. That was his mindset. Now he's a pastor. But because he kept me with him at his side when I was smaller until I was like 10, I understand when I'm in the face of a fake thug versus a real thug. And so the State House, there's no real thugs in there. And so when you start sending actual thugs who are together and motivated by the Holy Spirit, we can run that place. We can navigate that place. And I took a big jump trying to go do that in the Senate, but the state reps, it was easy. Easy.
Let me ask you
so
this.
Predictable. Like so predictable on the inside. It's just if you could swallow your pride for 2 seconds, you could get almost anything done. I just 2 weeks ago had a major piece of legislation passed. And I'm a lame duck. The governor signed the public housing transformation legislation that I worked on for 4 years as a lame duck. Like our people, you put the Care Bear, Carrie Mays, you put these people in that position, they will run that place. We don't even need 30% of them. You just need the right 10%.
That's right.
All right, so let me
understanding. And so if this education thing we're doing, it's going to create that workforce, that legislative workforce that's going to get in there, and they're not going to be planning again. Let me tell you, the first time the Speaker of the House tried to do something, not even to me, to my girlfriend, because they knew they couldn't get in my face, to one of these young Asian girls, and they tried to shut her down on the floor. And I went up to him, and I was like, I told him off. And then God got me, and so I wrote him a long 10-page handwritten letter saying like, this is what God is doing in you, and this is how you're trashing me. And this is why I'm not going to follow you unless you step up. And I gave him that letter, and he said to me, I was scared to talk to you because I knew how mad you were. This is like, people don't know what to do with real. And he said, I'm glad you're giving me this letter because at least now I know we're gonna be able to continue our relationship. This stuff I couldn't say as explicitly before because I don't want to throw him under the bus. When I was legislator. But then he went on to repent. And I showed him in the Bible where Paul had showed me that he was going to bring him to godly repentance. Because I didn't want to give him the letter. After I wrote it, I felt better. But I was like, now it'll be a hassle to have to actually talk to him about it. But God showed me this section in, I think it was Corinthians, where Paul was like, I didn't want to talk to you about this or send you this letter, but now I see it's brought you to godly repentance.
Right. Yeah.
So I saw that, and so I gave him the letter. And then when he responded well, we went out to lunch, and I showed him that in the Bible right on my phone. And you know what he said? He said, I don't know if it's godly repentance, but it is repentance. So the Holy Spirit moves in these people.
Yes, it will.
Because they're humans, they're our brothers and sisters. Like that God wants to move them. And but it has to be consistent. Like I can't walk in there and do that with Ron now. Right? Like maybe I could, but we need a group. It needs to not just be like, oh, that's how Nika is. They need to see that's how we are.
Yes.
That's how we all are.
Let me just interject a couple more things and then I'm out. One, I think Donald Trump called and said that was actually from 2 Corinthians.
You be telling jokes that you don't get to the very
You know what I'm saying?
Two Corinthians. Ooh, he had it upside down. That's what. Yeah, like any good devil worshiper would do. Listen.
So I
but-
just want to say that Jamal, that's why I started the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute, so that we could teach our young folks about running for office. But not only our young folks, some of our older folks don't know what to do either. So I think that this is something that we can do. This is not heavy lifting, especially with Nika.
Okay, now here's the suggestion, because Nika just mentioned her relationship with Mel King, which I did not know that you was that close with him. As you see before, I mentioned Mel and Pam King. So of course you know Pamela.
Yeah.
So tell Pamela to tell you all about the CEFP, give you the signs, the Community Enrichment Fellowship Program that they did out of Northeastern at the time when Dr. Joe Warren was at Northeastern. He's still alive, rest in peace. They did it with Doris Brunty, all those other people I mentioned. Okay, so that's one thing. Get that science from her. Okay, another thing in terms of legislation. When you were in the State House and the police reform stuff was going on, the part of it that was post, were you aware of the origins of post?
I am aware of what I was told about that. I don't know if it's what it's probably not what you're talking about.
So all I'm saying is just this. One of the first times, because for years I've actually felt slighted, but on one of these Boston Praise Radio, Black Praise Radio broadcasts, actually Representative Russell Holmes was on, and it's the first time that I heard him actually credit me publicly with the fact that I had brought police decertification to the table in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now these are what I'm gonna say are small victories. When you say you're a lame duck, I was an odd duck. You know what I mean? Okay, so was able to move from outside without a large contingent of folks to actually put something forth that ends up meandering its way, because it damn sure took a long time and it went through a lot of things. It was not my original vision, but it got through.
Yes.
Darn it. It got through. And that's one of the things where my little self, as a grassroots guy, can say, okay, from concept to completion. Okay. The completion is not perfect, but it's now out there. And as you said, the young people to carry maize or whatever, this is what amendments is all about. Hopefully there's going to be a new cadre. I'm still here now, but after I'm dead or whatever, the people are always going to now take what is there and push it forward. Because before this, we did not have a mechanism by which to really get rid of bad apple officers who, you can't lose your license. If Pastor Wall does something messed up on the radio, they will pull his FCC license. If a lawyer does something messed up, they will disbar you. If a doctor does a bad surgical procedure, they will take your thing. So we now apply
If
this
you're
to
in a gun
police
around our
officers.
communities, you got free license to go somewhere else and do it.
Oh,
Until
exactly,
now.
exactly. Next
This is
thing
beautiful.
I need.
We should use that case study. I gotta go, y'all, because I gotta get ready to hop on a 10. And I do need to stuff my face in the car before that, because y'all were somehow able to get me past my hangriness. But this next meeting will probably not be successful in that. I need to eat something. I love you, and Priscilla and Pastor Hobbs know how to find me. Even when I'm in Oklahoma, I'm going to be remote, accessible remote, for a good chunk of every week. So let's not wait until I get back. Let's, take a next step or two.
Peace out to hubby. He looks like no more.
What is it? Look like who?
No more.
No more? You don't know more? Marco?
He's busy eating, y'all.
So Jamal, Jamal,
Yes.
maybe we can set up something where we can set up something, we can have a conversation or something live and in person or something.
Well, that's it. Get Pam King on the thing.
Uh-huh.
That's it right there. That's the blueprint right there for that.
Okay, I'm gonna call her today.
There you go.
Okay, and we'll work it out.
Okie dokie.
All right, appreciate you, Jamal.
Absolutely.
All right, bye-bye.
Peace.
Oh, are we out? What time is it? Oh,
No,
yeah, we
there's-
got a couple more minutes. Yeah, so these are the types of things that we need, we need to know about legislation. Just like when we was working with Chuck Turner, we got the BRJP change, and they still ain't trying to enforce nothing, but we're getting ready to start enforcing some stuff. We're getting ready to sanction some people. So we definitely have to make sure that our folks are educated and that they know, because that's the problem. We don't know our history. Well, I know my history, but a lot of us don't know our history. And because we don't know our history, we tend to make the same mistakes over and over again.
And Jamal, I know we had a conversation about, yourself, myself, Ron Bell, and him, being able to do some civic, create some materials, right, with regard to just education as for the various offices, the terms, like all this kind of stuff.
Like a little guy.
Yes.
Yeah, a guy, like Ron Bell put for the candidate.
Exactly.
Yes.
But not specifically for,
not a candidate, but for the office. Yes, exactly.
So to be able to do that we can disseminate, particularly inside houses of correction, as well as on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So he definitely wants to follow up with utilizing you as a partner to be able to produce. I know you said that the guy that he did was good, but it would have been more better with you. So what we need to do to be able to get that going, let's do that.
I mean, it's done. So, once again, I only talk about things that I've utilized myself. So, for instance, Priscilla now could understand this too. She put out a book like I did. My second book was way better than my first book.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I realized all the mistakes I made in my first book. in everything from the layout, the printing, everything. I was like, oh man. So my second book is way better. My third book is gonna be iller than that.
Yeah.
And over the years, as y'all have seen, I put out newspapers and da. I fancy myself a graphic designer, a web designer, even though OG Pastor Wall is trying to take my crown. It's all good. You know what I mean? But things like this, we do this, and some of the heavy duty technology where you can incorporate databasing and so on and so forth. Not only could we do this, I mean, whatever. There's a lot of technology that we can employ. We could have our own, basically like a Facebook environment with members and all this type of thing.
love
Each
that.
people having their own profile that's just
love
based
that.
on Massachusetts people of color voting. People could set up their own groups and all this type of thing. The technology is there, and I'd like to sound like a genius and say I created it, but I didn't. And it would take me about 10 minutes to set up. So what I'm saying is we can do whatever, but in my opinion, we should follow a strict thing, that because it's not just about organizing, it's about effective organizing, maximizing, just like a business. You don't just want to be a coffee seller. You want to be Dunkin' Donuts, doggone it. You know what I mean?
Right? No, you're right, bro. You're right. You're right. So
I think we're down to 2 minutes.
no, we are down to no
1
time.
minute,
No,
no time.
it's the top. We're done.
All right, we out.
Smack your lips a couple more times before we leave.
All right, Jamal, we're gonna keep in touch.
Later.
Bye-bye.
All right. Peace, fam. Thank you for being with us for the broadcast here at Taste of Eden. Stay tuned to www.BostonPraiseRadio.tv. And God bless you. Thanks.